Would you have supported the Bolsheviks had you been a Russian leftist in 1917? No. Yeah, no, after they fucked over the anarchists. Well, it would really depend on, like, how successfully I was able to, figure out what they were actually doing. But keep in mind, as somebody who aligns more with the anarchists, he did kill us, so I would probably be too dead to have a decision. Ronan, sad Brazilian noises. Alright, hold on. Preferable to the Tsar regime, though? Yeah, but I would have wanted one of the other leftist factions alongside the Bolsheviks to win, like the anarchists. Well, in the meantime... Thanks, Omniostatic. Am I hallucinating music? No, there is a video game on, and we are about to do a debate, or a conversation, or something. Okay, ready? Oh, and it's happening now. We're just gonna farm. We're not gonna do boss attempts. Gotta focus on that stuff. Lower music? I will. Rogue Legacy 2 is so much better than 1, IMO. I'm calling. I'm calling. I'm calling. Okay, well. I'm waiting. If we're farming, though, we want gold gain. Yeah, I know. Way to spoil New Game Plus.
Hey, Vaush.
Howdy!
Hey, man. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good, good. So am I on video or audio?
You're just audio right now.
Sorry, I just got reminded that we have a bit of lag. So sometimes when I end my sentence, I don't really hear what you're saying. And I think listening at what happened last time, I realized that we should probably give each other a little bit of buffer. So I'm just going to say, if it's okay with you, just give me like up to a minute to answer whatever you're saying, and I'll do the same. And hopefully that will be good.
Well, I don't like doing very concrete blocks of back and forth, because I find that oftentimes when that happens, you never actually address any of the points. But one person will make 17, and then one person gets the chance to offer, like, a rebuttal to maybe 2. But I'll try my best not to interrupt, because the delay is unfortunate, and, it, you know, obviously don't want to completely talk over each other. Either way, yeah, I've got a clear hour. I'm sorry about the, hasty change in stream schedule. You know, Brazilian January 6th took place just a little bit ago, and I rolled out of bed for that, and stream got pushed earlier.
Totally understand. You know, a lot of stuff has been happening in the world. It's been kind of crazy. Sri Lanka ran out of fuel. Cars definitely not, you know, weren't moving earlier this year. Haiti has an energy crisis and a lot of unrest. So to see this, you know, in Peru, the president had basically pulled a Yeltsin against the you know, the Congress, got arrested. So things are pretty crazy around the world. Yeah, so I understand.
Yeah, I'd say so. So what's on your mind?
I wanted to call in and just kind of have a calm, rational conversation where I kind of talk about a libertarian perspective. And I realized last time it just went all over the place. I would like to sort of propose that it's a valuable way to look at things, to sort of step back from people's nationalities or religions or membership in a specific country, or try to anthropomorphize countries and say, well, this country did this, as if, you know, somebody stole something from that person, and sort of maybe divide people but in a different way, divide people into regular civilians who may not necessarily want to kill each other, regardless of which religion or nationality they may be, and their political leaders, armies, top-down media, education system, and so on, which are systems which, in my opinion, have outsized effects on these individuals and ultimately create conditions which are hard to reverse. Wars, conflicts, famines, and so on. And so I think we need to be mindful of how these systems work and see if maybe we can continue to improve systems just like we've been doing over the last few hundred years. That's basically what I want to talk about today.
Oh, works fine to me. So, prescriptively then, I remember we had a number of disagreements vis-a-vis the support of the war in Ukraine and everything. What do you disagree with me on? What positions do I have that you don't get along with?
It's a good question. I guess we can go into that, and then I want to talk more broadly. I want to hear your positions, right? I want to know what your position is in general for solving conflicts and problems. But when it comes to the war in Ukraine, um, I'm curious about one thing. So I've heard you say a lot about sort of you're against fascists, right? And you believe that the United States is full of fascist adjacent people, or perhaps fascists themselves.
Yes.
Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that? What is your viewpoint in general? Like, where are you coming from?
Well, the Republican Party at this point is a pretty overtly fascist organization. Whether you're talking about it being anti-democracy in the sense that it's supported, funded, continues to play cover for a coup, undermines democratic norms and institutions, you know, the reactionary side of things, hyper-militarism, xenophobia, pulling away from the world. On basically every box you can tick, they're fascist. Which is not good, because fascism is bad. So, got to work on that.
And by work on that, do you advocate some form of violence, or how do you plan to actually overcome the growing fascism in the United States?
Violence itself doesn't do anything. The most you can do is get people to not be fascist and to preserve our democratic institutions. If fascists try another coup, or if there are people who are trying to kill our elected representatives, I think violence is a pretty acceptable measure of self-defense against those specific people. But for the millions and millions of Americans who just casually happen to believe really stupid shit, that ain't gonna cut it. The most you can do, really, is try to construct systems that encourages them to think better things.
Okay, but what about actual people that hold really right-wing nationalist beliefs, like the Tiki Torches and the Unite the Right rally? Some of the people who went to January 6th might fall into that category. What do you do with Spencer, neo-Nazis, I don't know, whatever, in this country?
Freedom of speech. They've got the right to feel that way, even if it's stupid. But people like those, they don't come out of nowhere. They exist because there are other systems and incentive structures that construct them. You know, there weren't randomly a bunch of like white supremacist neo-Nazis in like 1300s China. This stuff emerges from material conditions we have control over, and so I want to construct conditions that keep people like that from believing those things.
I like that. I think the more we talk, the more we're going to get agreement on the fact that the systems shape how people think, feel, and so on. Okay. And through that lens, I mean, Ukraine is one specific case, and everyone right now is concerned about it, and rightly so. You know, people are dying, and I think we all want less people to die.
Hopefully.
I keep saying, and the Pope and others on the left say that, well, we have to stop the war, we have to stop escalating, we have to stop shipping weapons there. And of course, there's disagreement because a lot of people would like to ship more weapons to Ukraine because they want to achieve a broader geopolitical goal, which is to say that perhaps they'll starve Russia of resources, perhaps Russia will never rise again as a military superpower. Perhaps they'll eliminate all forms of aggression or invasions, which to me is very utopian, but that's been sort of the hope, I think, in arming Ukraine. But at the same time, these bombs, the vast majority of these explosives and rockets explode in Ukraine. So,
Well, yeah, Ukraine's
yeah,
the country being invaded. Obviously, any defensive action would have to be done in the borders of Ukraine.
correct. So I want to point out a few things about the Ukraine war, which are very unique and different than most wars. And if I'm wrong, let me know. One of the things is, so as of January 2nd, 2023, okay, recently, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights verified, I'm reading here, that a total of basically 7,000 civilian deaths since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And out of those, 430 were children.
Mhm.
Here, and furthermore, 11,000 were injured, reported. Here's my point. In most wars that I have seen, in most conflicts, including in Syria, where the opponents were non-state actors, maybe like Al-Nusra Front and Free Syrian Army, they say, and so on. Um, they razed entire cities, homes, Aleppo, they're gone. You look at Grozny in Chechnya, you know, it was the most bombed out city at that time. So Russia is capable of leveling cities, destroying large numbers of people. And in Afghanistan, you know, you had 2 million dead civilians. So to see, I've never seen a war where there's an order of magnitude now less civilian deaths than fighter deaths. And these, it's of course sad. These people are being grabbed off the street, many of them shanghaied into joining, you know, on both sides. On Russia's side, there's sort of maybe an orderly, you know, draft, and there's some volunteers that joined earlier. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, yes, that's sad, but we typically tend to look at civilian deaths. Can you tell me any other war in which less civilians die than combatants, and by an order of magnitude, even this is like I've never seen this.
Well, it's relatively uncommon, but I think it's a product of the fact that we've been able to arm Ukraine to defend itself. If the Ukrainian military rolled over, if they were completely unable to defend themselves, then Russia would have been able to sweep across Ukraine, at the very least to the river, and the resistance against Russia would have taken the form of like civilian uprisings, militia groups, and ordinary people raising together the arms to fight against Russia. That would have been very destructive in terms of human life. But in areas that are occupied by Russia, the people there know that they can be calm and wait and not fight because they know that the Ukrainian government will come for them. The hope in the government saving them is what's keeping a lot of these civilians from engaging in like stochastic terrorism to defend their homeland.
Sure. I'm not talking about you know, an uprising or a guerrilla warfare of the type that CIA thought they would have to do after Russia won in a few days, they thought. What I'm saying is that in most wars, the civilians are casualties. You know, it's called collateral damage by the United States, a very interesting term. But the point is that in you know, you look at Operation Cast Lead by Israel in Gaza, you look at Nagorno-Karabakh, you know, and so on. What I'm trying to say is, it seems to me very clearly that there's another explanation too, which is that neither the Russians nor the Ukrainian army really want to kill Ukrainian civilians, and I'll give you one reason for that. 11 million Russians have family in Ukraine. These are stories of love. These are stories of people getting married, having children, okay? And these are the stories as a libertarian that I want to focus on. But the media and the politicians and everybody who fails to, you know, come to an agreement with the Minsk agreements and so on, they fail. And then they play up these stories of hate. And of course, there's organic stories of hate now, because you may not have hated Russians, but then they kill your brother, or they kill your mother, and the next thing you know, you hate Russians, like you actually literally hate them. And what I'm trying to say to you is, we need to think systemically. We need to look at publics and populations, because this is not simply a war of one man, Putin, but this is the Russian public and the Ukrainian public being driven to hate each other and being conscripted. And to me, that is how we have the lens through which we have to look at wars, and we have to de-escalate these conflicts.
But I'm afraid that's definitely not true. First of all, indiscriminate attacks against civilians are literally a part of the Russian military doctrine. If it weren't for the unseasonably warm weather, the Russians' plan of shelling energy infrastructure and then freezing out the Ukrainian population would have succeeded. It was only because of luck and global warming that that didn't happen. But hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians may have frozen to death in their villages were it not for just dumb luck. This was something that was being joked about by people on Russian state television. They're not to mention the Bucha mass graves, the war crimes, the fact that we don't even know the actual number of dead. We only know the reported dead. It's pretty hard to do that during a conflict. And the fact that many children have been stolen and brought into Russia. It's waning population or kind of cultural replacement, I'm not really sure, but it has been noted to happen. This isn't about the Ukrainian and Russian people being told to hate each other. It's about Russia invading. You're framing it like it's some kind of neutral, or even like the media is pitting these two against each other. They're not. Russia invaded Ukraine. If Ukrainians right now wanted Russians out and wanted the Russian soldiers and their population dead, they would be right. They're being invaded. But if the Russian soldiers in that same position were to say, oh, well, while I'm here, I want the Ukrainian civilians dead, they would be wrong to. They are the aggressors here.
Well, yeah, you won't see me defending atrocities in war. You know, you could go back to Human Rights Watch as a side point to 2014 and talk about the Ukrainian aggression against civilians in the Donbass region. Talk about cluster munitions, the same type of cluster munitions that the Guardian found to be used in Bucha.
Maybe Russia shouldn't have invaded then.
I'm not talking about 2022.
They invaded in 2014.
Okay, we can discuss that invasion. Let's discuss that invasion, because when you use the word invasion, I sometimes think you're conflating the two conflicts, right? So go ahead, tell me what happened in 2014.
Well, after the Euromaidan event and Yanukovych was ousted by the Russian people, after he fled of his own accord, killing protesters on the way out, the Russian government, who had relied on Yanukovych to be a stooge they could use to control the Ukrainian people, decided to use more direct means. And so they instead turned towards Ukrainian, not Russian. Instead, the Russian government, no longer having Yanukovych as a puppet, decided to just full-on prompt an invasion. Now, rather than doing so directly themselves, they instead armed, funded, supported, trained, and provided munitions to Russian separatists in the Donbass. This is like one of the clearest definitions of a proxy war imaginable. It's very literally Russia just like shadowboxing with Ukraine through the Russian separatists. But Russia nonetheless did this. They were the ones that created the conditions that led to the fighting in the Donbass. And they sent special forces over as well. They didn't keep entirely out of it. There were Russian troops found there.
So I think it's valuable to go to the beginning of a conflict, go a little bit before, and look at, you know, the factors that have led to it, right? We can do that with the Yemen
Also
war.
The annexation of Crimea. Yeah, sorry.
And the annexation of Crimea. We can go through each one of these things. So I don't know which ones to start with because they're all important. Let's start with Crimea, just because I think it's important. That specific region is very different than what's happening in the Donbass and the current Ukraine conflict. Crimea, as a region, you know, it changed hands many times, just like with Ukraine. It belonged to Turkey. I think Catherine the Great, Catherine the Second, whatever, of Russia conquered it. Stalin deported a lot of Crimean Tatars, leaving mostly Russians there, or Russian speakers. Now, two important things about Crimea, and then I want to talk about the larger Ukraine issue. Crimea in 1954, when you know, Ukraine was a socialist republic and so was Russia, they did not feel the type of nationalism that we feel today because they were just part of a federation, just like New Jersey.
Don't you think
New York.
It's kind of weird to introduce all of this as a prelude to an unambiguous armed conquest of a territory?
No. I'm trying to explain why.
I want to save you time. I don't care. Crimea could have been Crimea could have been made an official part of Ukraine 5 hours before the annexation, and I would not care. It was
but that's not the point.
It was a military invasion where troops were used to seize and annex a territory. It had nothing to do with democracy. The people did not will it. The governments did not approve of it. It was just a land grab. It was no different from Hitler annexing the Sudetenland. At least when he annexed Austria, he was celebrated as a hero by some Austrians. In this case, the government didn't even like concede anything. The Ukrainian government just had land taken from them. Additionally, legally speaking, Russia has already acknowledged the sovereignty of Crimea. This is a done deal legally.
We're opening so many cans of worms. I'm trying to close each of the things that you're saying, at least say one thing about them. Okay, so I try to respond to each point. Crimea did change hands in 1954, but nobody killed each other over it. Again, it's important to understand from a libertarian perspective why that is.
From who to who?
From Russia to Ukraine.
Okay. And how was that done?
It was done through just an administrative edict by the Russian federal government.
So this was just done as a process of existing legal norms and mechanisms.
And no one asked the people of Crimea or asked them with the referendum, correct?
The
They
Soviet
simply,
Union wasn't a democracy.
okay, sure. But my point is simply this. I am telling you as a libertarian, right? Self-determination of the people living there. When we want to know what they think, they weren't asked in 1954. They were Russian, meaning they belonged to the Russian, RSFSR, which was the Soviet Socialist Republic. Then they became the Ukrainian FSR. Guess what? Nobody killed each other. It was considered an administrative change, road signs and so forth, and life went on. That's the type of thing I'm talking about. I would like to see.
That's
What happens is that same region.
That's because an authoritarian government did something authoritatively. I think that's bad. You say there was no bloodshed. Yeah, that's because they were all controlled by a totalitarian leader. Like what you're describing, what you're describing right now is essentially saying it's okay to annex territory from another country because if both of those areas were controlled by the same dictator, then he would be able to swap land around without much of an issue.
I am literally saying almost the opposite. I'm saying, and I think we need to discuss our core values here, because what I'm saying is I like when there's less violence. I like when people are living in the same federation like the United States or EU.
Then Russia shouldn't have annexed Crimea.
Well, can I have like 20 seconds to say what I'm saying? I think that when I think it's terrible that violent annexation happens by empires and so on. But once that occurs and once the price has been paid, once the violence has occurred and now everyone speaks the same language, has the same roads and, and so on. There's 50 states now that speak the same language and so on. I don't like how they formed. I didn't like the Mexican-American War. I don't like the extermination of Native Americans, and I don't like how they took Hawaii and so on. But what I am saying is, once that happened, I like that New Jersey doesn't consider it a sovereign country and won't start to fight over New York and start World War III over Staten Island. I like that. Do you like that, or do you think that a strong federal government keeping peace or not letting people think too independently nationally, you're saying is bad because, well, they're repressing New Jersey and New York, correct?
I don't think there's a comparison. I agree that it is good that countries do not randomly start violence over land claims, which is why I think it's bad that Russia did when they annexed Crimea. Ukraine did nothing wrong.
We both agree. So we agree that in 1954, it was good that nobody killed each other over the Crimea transfer then.
But it was bad that they existed under an authoritarian dictatorship where the people had no say whatsoever in how their land was used or what country they were a part of.
Both could be true, right? You could have more liberalism, like under Gorbachev, it began, the perestroika and glasnost. If that was allowed to continue since 1990s, those 30 years, you could have a very liberal country by now, and they would still not have this war because the Ukrainians that would be born after 1991 would not consider Ukraine as such an important concept. So the territorial integrity of Ukraine must be fought over with blood. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't understand the relevance to it because we're not talking about anyone randomly starting violence over an old land claim, except for Russia. Russia is the only group here that has done this.
I'm literally telling you, so the people that live in Crimea, okay, forget about the countries of Ukraine and Russia. The people in 1991 had a referendum. In that referendum, the choice was to have an independent Crimea or be part of Ukraine, okay? So many parts of Ukraine in 1991 voted to be part of Ukraine, over 70%. But two regions did not. That was Crimea and Sevastopol. And that was because mostly Russians live there or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to guess exactly why, but that's the truth. There are a lot of Russians there. Only 54% of Crimeans actually voted to join. And that's a margin of error that is around.
So wait. You just said Crimea did not vote to stay in independent Ukraine, but then you just described the majority of the population voting to stay in independent Ukraine.
I just said a 54% majority did, in fact, vote in 1991 to be part of Ukraine.
That's more than the ratio between Lula and... Would you mind silencing those alerts?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my... sorry about that.
No worries. That's more than the ratio between Lula and Bolsonaro in Brazil during their recent presidential election. That's a large lead in a presidential election. Either way, this is irrelevant. We're only talking about the rightness or the wrongness of what Russia did. If the people of Crimea could have demonstrated that they were being legitimately oppressed by the Ukrainian government and that secession was a politically desirable goal, I might have supported it. They never demonstrated this, of course, and there wasn't really a push to do that. They got annexed.
Okay.
I don't mind secessionary movements, though, if a good case can be made.
Good. I think we have a lot of agreement if we just use the right language or we focus on similar things. I feel like you're very focused on countries being anthropomorphized and applying morality to what they do. And what I'm saying to you is all of these countries are doing bad things. You agree? Okay, we both agree that China,
No,
the United
you haven't
States, and
described
Russia
Ukraine
do
doing
bad
anything.
things.
You haven't described Ukraine doing anything wrong yet.
Well, I'm going to get to that. Okay. I would like to talk about how Ukraine used cluster munitions on civilians and so on. But before I do,
Why'd they do that?
let me just close the chapter on Crimea.
Wait, did they use it on civilians or did they use it on Russian-backed separatists in the Donbass?
Well, civilians died from it. Hospitals were bombed. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, maybe Russia shouldn't have invaded the Donbass?
Sure, but when I said blame game last time, I just want to be clear. If you Google the word blame game, I don't mean it in the sense that we can't tell who's right or wrong. The blame game is when you focus on he started it and then you act like children. And what you're supposed to do as adults is have problem-solving strategies that involve more than just who is at fault, but rather how are you going to get out of this problem?
You can't solve the problem unless you're willing to acknowledge who's at fault.
Sometimes who's at fault? The answer is there are bad people on every side.
No, that's not what happened here. Russia initiated literally every level of aggression. There is no both sides. What you're doing there is fascist apologia, meaning that you also get the distinguished honor of being the bad guys. By equating a democratic country defending itself and a fascist country invading another, you are providing defense for that fascist country. The blame game is critical here. Before deciding who is at fault, imagine arriving at the end of World War II and not trying to find who is at fault at the end of that conflict. Imagine, the Nuremberg trials are getting set up or whatever. Okay, well, Nazi Germany did this or that or whatever. But, at the same time, also, we had, Dresden. I mean, we had civilians killed by the French and the British as well. If you do not decide on who the initial moral criminal is, you can never then arrive at justice. Sometimes situations are very complicated, but World War II wasn't, and neither is this.
Look, I understand the appeal of Godwin's law because you want to have a clear moral case here. You want to have a bright line. The fact is, most wars are not like that. If I talked about Yemen or Vietnam or indeed Laos or anything, what you're going to get is you're going to get a complex patchwork of who was right and who was wrong.
I'm talking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Yes, good. And that's also complex. And I want to get into that.
It is not.
Okay. Well, I think that's good. We have a disagreement here, and let's dig in and figure out why you think it's so simple. Okay. So I just wanted, once again, to just reiterate, Crimea is a special case because 54% voted to join Ukraine. It's possible that people's opinions change enough so that if they have a referendum and if the OSCE actually agreed to oversee it, they would have legitimately agreed that, hey, you know what, these people did actually vote to join Russia. And what then? What then? Because we don't have in the international system a very good way to respect that. I just want to say very quickly, hold on. May I just say this, that in 2017, Catalonia voted to secede from Spain and the Kurds voted to secede from Iraq. Neither referendum was respected. Indeed, the people were simply arrested by the Spanish. So I'm just telling you that even if the people want Elon Musk way to vote, the UN is formed from countries, delegates of countries. They do not want secession. So we could talk about that. You seem to support secession sometimes. I'd love to hear what you think of Hong Kong.
None of this is relevant. I want to talk about why Russia...
I don't know how you determine relevance unilaterally.
I want to talk about why Russia is in the wrong. It is the only thing I'm interested in. I only examine the other details of these issues so I can better examine the ways in which Russia is wrong. I'm fully interested in a moral assessment of the conflict and every other thing that I learn only supports me in my moral denunciation.
Hmm. So I morally denounce, sorry, Russia for invading Ukraine. I also denounce Russia for arming rebels against the government, the federal government, the secessionists. Okay. I will also say that the United States and other countries do that routinely. We've armed the Syrian rebels against Assad and so on. But I'm
But
not
we
going
are
to
only
simply.
talking about this. We don't need to dilute things by making comparisons to other conflicts, where other complexities might crop up and there might be slight differences that change our opinions. I'm only talking about this one instance here.
But that's okay. So you said last time something that I think almost conceded the whole point to the libertarian viewpoint. I want to take a step back since you do want to talk about morality, and I do too, but I need to talk about, adults and people, intelligent people tend to look for patterns. They don't look at one thing in isolation in all of history and say this thing is a unique snowflake. They typically go and look at different conflicts and they see what types of things lead to the conflict. So even in your Hitler case, which you keep going back to, if all Hitler did was annex Austria and then not commit any genocides, no one would be killed and so forth, there would be a lot of people, like you said, in Austria who may have welcomed because they had a depression at the time, and the Nazi party creating jobs. Now, again, this would be a Nazi party that history would say would simply have been some sort of job creating party.
Well,
Of course, that's
annexing
fantasy, right?
annexing
Yeah,
another nation is still a pretty huge deal. We generally rely on
it,
the stability of our borders because border instability is like the #1 cause of war. Randomly annexing a territory as a power grab for basically no humanitarian reason is morally condemnable under any circumstances. A good case has to be made. I have a default positive value towards border stability, even for countries I don't like, because border instability
So
causes so many
when you
problems.
support, okay, so let's just explore your, again, I want to stay away from the Hitler and Nazis thing because it's just like Ron Paul saying that, the attack on 9/11 was motivated by our interventions in the Middle East. He got booed, and I can understand because people get triggered very easily by, and who knows with these
But I agree
fantasy
with him.
Nazis who were nice. Yeah. So let's say, can we please stay away from the Hitler thing and the Nazis thing, okay, just for the duration of this
No,
discussion. There's plenty of other conflicts we could talk about,
no,
right?
comparisons will still probably come up.
Okay, well, here's a comparison. So then I would like to make a comparison. The war in Yemen has been raging since 2015. I
Mhm.
wish more people would talk about it because millions of people, according to the UN, are facing hunger. They're one step away from hunger. Now, how did that war happen? It's very similar. It's a proxy war, but this time between our Saudi allies and Iran. Okay? So, how much do you know about the Houthi rebels and the start of that war?
I haven't had to do much research on the Yemen conflict because I haven't had a debate on it. I don't know enough to confidently make many assertions.
Okay. I'm just going to say, make one assertion in general. I do believe that the reason that the Yemen conflict, despite having way more misery and death and being the worst humanitarian crisis currently, even given that Ukraine is happening, the reason that people aren't talking about it is threefold. One, it's not in Europe. They're not white Christians. Okay. B is that they are essentially not a way to starve Russia of resources, or in the words of Brzezinski, make Russia bleed for as long and as hard as we can.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's no, maybe Iran, maybe we can make Iran bleed, but Iran is not really invested so much in this war as one may think. And the third is simply that, well, I would say never mind. Let's just keep it
Of
to
what
three.
relevance is this, though?
Well, if your goal is to care about human suffering and ending it,
My
right? And
goal
and make
right now is to talk about the Ukraine war. There's a problem with overbroadness in analysis, where sometimes people will try to implicitly defend a subject by insisting that an overemphasis on it is actually contributing to a broader problem, which I really disagree with. I don't like it when people do that. So, like, we see this often with American diabolism, right? Like, you have the conflict in Ukraine, and bad things are happening. But people will then say, well, did you know that overwhelmingly the side in a conflict America supports is actually the wrong side. Take a look at all these conflicts. This can be interesting. I don't mind it when people do this inherently. It's good to criticize America. But when doing this in the context of a conversation on the Ukraine war, it kind of serves to minimize what's happening in Ukraine. You know, like, oh, maybe this and this, sure, but also this, that, this, and the other. And once you're doing that, you kind of engage in a sort of soft apologia, which I'm very, very cautious about because I see it happen a lot in discourse.
I
So
appreciate what you're saying about whataboutism. I happen to be firmly on the other side of the issue. I do think the word whataboutism is a license to engage in horrific double standards where you navel gaze at one specific conflict while we ask, like, where were you? Are you ever going to talk about the Yemen conflict? You go, well, I didn't have time to look at it. It's been like 8 years. It's millions of people suffering. Like, maybe you should take a look at it.
I've never
You know,
seen
it
a
would be
person take a pro whataboutism stance, but in a way, I think I kind of respect it.
Thank you.
The fact remains, if you disagree with any of my other foreign policy positions, I'm happy to substantiate them. But all of them are consistent with my belief that the defense of Ukraine is essential, and we should
Sure.
continue to
I
follow
want
it.
to ask about the consistency of your positions, but I just wanted to say you said something in our last talk. And by the way, we're giving each other time is great because I think we're having a much more productive discussion.
It's better for sure.
Hopefully. Yeah, thank you. So like, first of all, you've said something in that last discussion that, you know, when I reviewed it, it stood out to me as like you're almost conceding the point to libertarianism. But I need to first hear from you, what is your approach? What is the core of your approach? I'll tell you the core of my approach, okay? And then I'll tell you what you said that I think kind of concedes the point, which is fine. I'm not here to win or defeat someone. I'm here to get to a mutual understanding, right? And agreement. So my position as a libertarian is to say, look, people are born into this world in a certain, you know, they live in the 21st century or whatever, okay? 7% of all people who have ever been alive are alive right now. Who knows? We may solve mortality at some point or whatever. So we're here on this planet, okay? And we have ideas about, you know, we used to kill each other for religious wars. The Crusades were horrific, you know, and then we learned something called multiculturalism, where we could live side by side with a Muslim and a Christian and a Buddhist. And, you know, we figured out how to avoid killing each other and all these conflicts. We also, and this is where I'm different than many libertarians, I'm a left libertarian, but I also look at technology and improvements in our systems. So for example, if I get into a car accident with someone, my insurance company calls their insurance company, and they've seen hundreds and thousands of these cases. They know what to require, what evidence, and they solve it with no violence required. Similarly, if I have a dispute over someone, you know, sending me a bad product that I paid for, my bank and their bank, the merchant bank, will work it out. I can dispute with a credit card, and it doesn't even involve a court case, let alone violence. My point is, there are many ways to solve probably 99% of human conflicts that have been invented in the last, you know, 200 years and so on, and we've been inventing more. We should be focused on trying to resolve things using what I called previously frameworks, laws and other frameworks like the banking regulations or whatever. And we have to increase how we do that, because if we keep thinking in terms of nationalism, etc., and countries, it's a little bit like the tribalism that we used to have with religion. And I would like to see if we can, over time, minimize the tribalism and the morality that you seem to ascribe to Russia or Ukraine or whatever, and talk about people and the politicians they elect. Does that make
Tribalism,
sense?
I get it, but tribalism is just a part of human behavior. It's just a factor in sociological analysis. But I don't think it's relevant to what Ukraine is doing. Plenty of Ukrainians are nationalists, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending nationalism as a concept, except in instances where it can be useful, which I suppose it is here. What I'm caring about here, fundamentally, is stability and human well-being. The behavior that Russia is engaging in is detrimental to human life. Ukraine, not so much so. Ukraine doesn't act perfectly, no one does, but for the most part, Ukraine as a liberal democracy has done a far better job taking care of its people and respecting other people than Russia has in either circumstance. Russia's invasion was unprovoked, and if you want to prevent that kind of behavior from becoming more popular in the future, unprovoked invasions by fascist empires to assimilate liberal democracies, you have to crush them. You have to make it impossible for them to do that sort of thing ever again. You can do this economically or militarily. I mean, there's a million ways you can do it, but it has to happen. It's necessary, because if you don't do it, there's no incentive structure or framework which prevents them from engaging in that behavior in the future. That's what I'm concerned about.
I appreciate it, and I almost like I agree that at this point we might have to, as you say, crush Russia's attempts to, retain the gains that they have had. But I don't think that will solve the problem worldwide. And something you said last time underscores that. You said, yes, sometimes we're the bastards. The United States, has done so much regime change and so on. But in this one case, you said, in this one case, I would love to see the underdog beat the bully, and in this one case, we're gonna have the correct outcome, right? You said something along those lines
We're doing the right
last time.
thing right now. Militarily
Right.
supporting Ukraine is the morally just thing to do. If we did this every time, we would literally be the arsenal of democracy. We would be heroes.
So to me, that, by the way, that sounds a lot like American exceptionalism, but
We
I
are
will just say
exceptional.
this.
We're the strongest nation on earth. If we use that strength for good, we would do more good than any other nation ever could.
Sure, that's a big if, but here's what I would like to say. The fact that you said, in this one case, I want it to win, almost concedes the fact that the system is broken. I'm talking about the international system, all the laws that we currently have up to this point. Now, yes, we've had improvements, like the Geneva Conventions were huge improvements. I mean, the meat grinder that was World War One and World War Two, and all the horrific stuff that people used to do up to that point. I mean, goodness, the Romans, the crucifixions. All I'm saying is, yes, we have made progress as humanity, but you are almost like trying to get in this one case finally a win. And what I'm trying to say, doesn't that show you that this is the exception that shows that the rule is we are still, our system is very, it has a lot of failure modes and a lot of violence still, right?
Of course. But this is the best we've ever done. And that means
So
we should support it. If you want to change a system, like, say, America's biases in a post-Cold War geopolitical sense, you have to incentivize the good behaviors. And this is definitely an example of that. In one fell in terms of potential down-the-line threat, for a fraction of our defense budget, we support a liberal democracy, we preserve border stability in Europe, which is, trust me, in everyone's best interest, and we crush the spread of fascism abroad. It's an unambiguous win from both a liberal and leftist perspective, which is not common, just not a thing that happens that often. Obviously, the broader framework is still fucked, but I have seen signs of positive change. For instance, literally just today, we've seen the fruit of some other foreign policy, decision making that I agree with. Biden had his national security advisor go over to Brazil to talk with Lula da Silva on preventing a Bolsonaro coup. Like how to prevent a Jan 6 from happening, which happened today. And, it was kind of an embarrassment for Bolsonaro's crew. This is literally America's liberal president sending over a national security advisor to protect a democratically elected socialist from fascist violence. If we could do shit like this more often, we would be the moral epicenter of the world. We would be what the Soviet Union tried to be for developing countries during the Cold War. We would be able to lift them. We would make them stronger. So we have to
I
support this
happen to
behavior.
enthusiastically agree with you. I think more cooperation between countries and listening to each other, regardless of the other country's ideology, even if it's North Korea or Iran, I think that's good, of course. I happen to like the Iran deal, for example. I also liked Clinton's agreed framework with Kim Jong-il. But the problem is, the United States has different parties, and as soon as the opposing party will come in, they will nix any of the deals, like they have with Korea and like they have with Iran. And so I don't have, and like they've done with Cuba. Over and over, these countries are, as you say, our enemies and so on. To me, that's silly. I mean, we're in the 21st century. What is Cuba exactly? How are they threatening us? Why should we have sanctions on them? I don't even know. Does anyone? This is what I'm saying. So, do you defer to authority? Like, what is your source let me go back. What is your worldview? You haven't told me. You've told me about Russia, whereas I have told you about generally my worldview. What is your worldview? Like, what are you trying to say is wrong now, and how do you attempt to fix it? Exactly.
I just want people to be healthy and happy. Not living under fascism is a big part of that. Um, I will have a general bias towards stability because global instability causes a lot of people to suffer, even if you're doing it for good. I'm in favor of some kinds of instability if I think they lead to enough good down the road that it justifies it. So, for example, World War II. The decision to participate in World War II from America, or this, aiding, Lend-Lease, blah, blah, these things, they decrease world stability in the short term, but in the long term, I think they're the right move to make. As is the case here. Though in this case, I don't even think we're contributing to world instability for a short time, so it seems like a pretty upfront victory. Um, but no, this isn't about nationalism, decision-making, or frameworks. It's about making sure that we are set on the right path, making the right decisions when it counts. The people who we are fighting over there in Russia via Ukraine, we being, I guess, the broader left, they're here in America, too. The American Republican Party is a fascist party, as the Russian government itself is fascist. It is the Republicans here in America who do not want us to support Ukraine. It is the Republicans who want Ukrainian children to be raped and burned by Russian soldiers. They want this because Russia's strength is their strength. The strength of a foreign liberal democracy is to our benefit, and the strength of a foreign fascist oligarchy is to theirs. So they support the oligarchy. The only
Well,
thing we
I
can
don't
do
know.
here is support the right people. There is no third choice. We either support
Mm.
Ukraine or do not, and the outcomes of supporting Ukraine are superior to those where we do not. I suppose we can
So,
support Russia. That is a possibility, but I don't suggest it.
well, sure. I don't think we would ever do that as the United States, even when they were liberal, or even when the United USSR fell. But even though at times what you're saying is super hyperbolic with the fascists,
It's
I
not.
will
I fully
simply
believe it.
okay. So you fully believe that we should fight fascism everywhere and neo-Nazis and
Of course. What else should we do?
okay. So in that case, I think it would be good to focus this discussion on Ukraine before Russia's invasion or arming rebels. Okay. From what you've been saying, it sounds like you have an incomplete picture of what happened before 2015. Okay. So let me just tell you, if you were observing the events in Ukraine in 2013 and 14 and previous years, you would find that far more nationalist parties than the Republican Party, like the Svoboda Party in Ukraine, had been elected. In some regions, they had as much as 35% support. This was in the west of Ukraine. So, from what I understand, I take you at your word that you're against neo Nazis, fascists, and so on.
Thank you.
Uh, okay. These, some of them, some, I'm not going to say, but some people in Ukraine are obviously descended from people that really didn't like Russia. And I can understand that because of the Holodomor and many other things. So in World War II, when the Nazis, the literal Nazis, came, they actually joined them and happened to, kill Jews, sometimes enthusiastically. Unfortunately, my own family, for example, my two of my grandmother's sisters got murdered as 5-year-old children by Ukrainians. But again, that's way in the past. What I'm saying is, after the war, these things continued. Some of the Bandera, the OUN, and so on operated. Some of them operated out of sort of a partisan. I don't know what you call it in English. In Ukrainian, it's basically like partisans, like people who are operating after a war, like the KKK, right? And so that happened. But my point is this: you would certainly be against that ideology, right? You would be against people who want Ukraine for Ukrainians and Jews and Russian sympathizers can leave or would get kicked out, right? You would be against that at least.
Of course. I would be nowhere near as enthusiastic about the defense of Ukraine if Zelensky's government was as fascist as the Russian government. In fact, if it was two fascist countries duking it out, my only interest would be in border stability, just because, fighting, there's no good outcome here, really. It's just suffering. I would be much less enthusiastic. I probably wouldn't even care if America supplied arms to Ukraine if they were as bad as Russia in that respect. Because at that point, we're not even defending anything worthwhile. It's purely a matter of border stability, and we might not need to get involved there.
So I want to say that the vast majority of Ukrainians and Russians are good people. I'm talking about, when I say good, I mean regular people don't want to kill each other. They want to marry each other. They want to raise children. They want to earn enough money to bring home and have dinner with their family. Okay? They don't really care much which flag flies over something 2,000 miles away. Their media will make them care. Their schools will definitely make them care. And the schools can be by whichever government program decides, pledge allegiance to whichever flag. And so they will be made to care. And I think that the people who grew up after 1991 are very different than the babushkas, who were in the east of Ukraine. The babushkas were coming out in anti-Maidan protests, and I guarantee you they're not astroturfed. When you look at PBS Frontline, the battle for Ukraine, if you Google that, you'll see a lot of videos from 2013. What happened was, the perception was that the Maidan protests were in fact led by ordinary Ukrainians and started with students, as it often does. But then the most organized, and according to BBC, these are mainstream things from 2014, highlighting that neo-Nazi and far-right nationalist extremists were the most organized and the most effective in the uprising that toppled Yanukovych's government. What I'm trying to say is that if you were on a side that opposed Nazis, you would find a lot of people in the east of Ukraine agreeing with you, and their motivation legitimately not astroturfed for coming out by the thousands in Kharkiv and Odessa, not just in Donetsk and Luhansk.
It's interesting to me that you nix one of the biggest motivators for East Ukrainians supporting or opposing the Euromaidan protests, and that's because being ethnically Russian, a lot of them had an ethnic and national bias towards Russia. So you talk about rejecting nationalist biases, but a lot of the anti-Euromaidan people were themselves highly sympathetic to Russia on a cultural and national level.
Sure. They were. In fact, I don't reject reality. I am simply, there's two things: recognizing reality as it is, right? We have our backgrounds. People grow up in Gaza. They grow up in Jerusalem. They have different viewpoints, depending on which side of Jerusalem they grew up on, and so on. So that's reality. But then you also, I'm talking to you about their motivations. They came out, these old ladies who are hysterical and calling for Putin to save them. Okay, some of them are not put there by the Russian government. They are literally people who live there. There are millions of people. And the other thing is, these people are currently disenfranchised since 2014. They do not vote in Ukrainian elections. How can you call Ukraine a democracy when millions of its citizens are disenfranchised?
I notice we're jumping around the timeline a little bit. First of all, the legitimacy of the support from these babushkas is irrelevant. I don't give a fuck what they support. The majority of the Ukrainian people supported siding with the EU. Yanukovych was a Russian puppet who pushed them otherwise, as Putin told him to. He killed civilian protesters, as he was told to, and he fled, as he was told not to.
I condemn all that, but he was elected democratically.
He was. Correct? Well, I mean, he did cheat the first election, of course. The second time...
I'm not talking about 2004. I agree. That election was contested.
Right. The other time. And he fled, thus ceding the office.
Hold on, you're conflating his fleeing. Forget the. Can we please look chronologically before his fleeing?
Wait, wait. But I didn't. I wanted to address what you had to say. Right. And then you talk about democracy. You talk about this, that, the other. So, what are we trying to do right now? Are we making an impassioned plea for the persecution of Russian-speaking ethnic minorities in the Donbass? What evidence is there of this persecution?
Here's what my
keep in mind,
is.
By the way. That America today ethnically persecutes plenty of groups, and we remain a liberal democracy. Ethnic persecution is the rule, not the exception, all around the world. It does not make it good, but I don't like the implication that this in some way equates them to Russia, the fascist oligarchy that's bearing them down. There's a huge
I
difference there. Because
detect a
trust
lot
me,
of agreement, but also you're triggered by Russia bad. Okay, I
it's not.
get
Wait,
it.
wait, wait.
Russia
Stop.
is bad.
Wait. No,
Sure.
no, no, no. You don't get to just throw information out there. This stories with the babushkas, how
I
whether or not
want
they're.
to focus on that
Wait, please,
information. I
please.
want to answer your
You
question.
wait. You talked for a while. Okay. You throw out a lot of information which has a clear implicit message. No one here is dumb enough to miss it. You talk about, oh, how can Ukraine call itself a democracy with this or that? You are positively comparing Russia to them. You may still say Russia
What?
is worse, but none of this information is relevant to
I just want to
anything
be, no, I
we
want
were
to be
talking
clear.
about.
You're making a positive claim that Ukraine is a democracy. I want them to be a
It
democracy, and
is a
they were.
democracy.
Well, I don't know how you can consider something to be a democracy which disenfranchised literally a huge percentage of its
Every
population
country on
from
earth
voting.
disenfranchises a portion of its population. They have
I
a
am talking
system which
about the
responds.
percentage of the population which elected Yanukovych, the Party of Regions.
Of
Its
what?
voter
Of what
base
evidence?
has been completely disenfranchised since
How?
2014.
How so?
They cannot vote in national elections.
How so?
Their vote simply isn't counted
Their vote. So just how? What?
because they are in Donbass, they are in Luhansk and
Oh,
Donetsk.
okay. And what happened in the Donbass?
That's what I'm telling you chronologically.
It's
In
an
2013,
occupied area.
so it's a democracy in which democracy is
Wait,
only for
are you
those.
blaming Ukraine for being invaded? Like, yeah, they can't count
No, I
votes
am
in
not the
the
one who's
area
talking
controlled
about
by
blame at
Russia.
all. I want to be clear. I don't assign blame because I think it's useless for solving
Okay,
conflicts.
why do you think they're not counting votes in the area currently controlled by armed Russian separatist militants?
Because they don't like well, in the past, they didn't like the Minsk agreements, which called for, and again, were promoted by
Russia never
France,
followed the
Germany,
Minsk agreement.
Belarus.
Okay, no, stop. This is I refuse to go down this road. This is too laughable, okay? It is
Why?
occupied territory. The reason
Yes,
the votes there aren't
I
counted
agree.
is because there is a foreign military in that area.
But prior to that,
Ukraine is not less of a democracy because there is a foreign military occupying an area which makes it impossible to fully contribute to democracy. That's
I understand,
ridiculous.
Vaush, but we've got to be able to do this. We've got to be able to go chronologically before a certain event and then act as if this we're not going to talk about this event yet and just describe what led up to the event, okay? Without invoking future events as a rationale for past events, okay? So can we pick 2014, the Maidan, before Russia invaded,
So
before
when were they
Russia
disenfranchised? Because, hold on, Yanukovych fled on February
we were
22.
disenfranchised ever since they went out to secede and protest against the Maidan.
Okay,
Ever since then.
so to be clear, okay, so I want to tell you the window of time during which you're saying millions had the right to vote taken from them. Yanukovych fled on the 22nd of February. The Donbass was invaded just 1 month later in March 2014. There was a 1 month gap between Yanukovych fleeing and the Donbass being invaded. So how could there possibly have been voter disenfranchisement of the people in that area that was not a product of Russia prompting the invasion?
I think the most important thing here is to understand how we go about solving problems and describing things. Okay. So for me, I look at things systemically.
I
I
really
look
want a
at it,
direct answer to this question. You're telling me that in 1 month they passed legislation to exclude them from democracy? How?
no, effectively, they never voted again.
Because they
I
were
mean, in
invaded by
national election.
Russia. Because they were invaded by Russia. But you said that
Look,
this
I
was
can, I
before the
can,
Russian invasion.
it's a bit like saying, if you will permit me, it's a bit like saying in 2006, Gazans elected Hamas. I was following that election and I saw they elected Hamas largely because of the social programs that were superior to Fatah, not necessarily because of Hamas's stance of rejecting Israel's right to exist.
How can they
But
vote
afterwards,
when they're invaded?
here's the point. Afterwards, they never had an election again. So the
Why have they
majority
not
of
had an
people,
election? Why
because the majority of
what no 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 no. Why have the people in the Donbass not been able to participate in a democratic election in Ukraine? It's not disenfranchisement. It's another thing that happened. You're lying if you say it's anything other than...
No, you're lying if you're saying it's that simple. The
Okay,
reason that it
no,
hasn't
you
happened...
can't. No. I will tolerate some banter, but on some issues you are so unmistakably wrong that I will not allow us to progress past it.
May I finish my
Civility
sentence and
ends.
then you tell me
Civility
it's wrong?
ends here. Okay. So
Okay.
this is retarded. They were invaded 1 month after Yanukovych fled. You did this whole lead up talking about how the people of the Donbass were discriminated against, how they were persecuted, removed from democracy. How could Ukraine possibly be a liberal democracy if they would remove millions from the vote? And what actually happened? Russia removed them from the vote by invading. Any other framing of this event is lying. It's not just dishonesty, it's willful
just
lying.
Because you said, I said the same thing back to you. You said I'm lying, and I'm trying to rhetorically tell you.
You did lie. Because if I wasn't the kind of person who I knew about this, or B, Googled things while talking, I would have just gone on and accept, oh, millions of people...
I am not lying.
Millions of people were disenfranchised by the new Ukrainian government.
Again,
oh, of course.
I don't know what you're... I don't see your screen. I don't know what you're Googling. But I will tell you, you can Google right now, Frontline PBS, the battle for Ukraine. All you have to do is look at what BBC, Newsweek...
What election were they not allowed to vote in?
I'm sorry?
I'm not going to look up a specific documentary section. What election were they not allowed to vote in?
You can look up BBC Newsnight. You can look up any time from that time, any...
There's any BBC Newsnight, like any of them?
No, BBC Newsnight about the neo-Nazis in the Maidan. Like literally, they went to, they interviewed all of them. They actually went, and back then it was a completely different narrative.
So you watched it. Share the knowledge with me. What election were millions of Russian-speaking people not allowed to participate in?
Okay. So you're conflating two things. You did this before with the invasion of 22 and 14. You call that an invasion. Fine. But now you're conflating two other things. You're conflating my statement that these people were never allowed to vote again, and therefore...
Why weren't they allowed to vote again?
Can I finish my thought,
Nope.
and then I'll answer that question?
No, because you won't ever... No. I've talked with you twice. I know you won't answer it. I'm holding it to you here.
I will.
Why? No, you won't. You won't. Why? Then you can continue. Why weren't they able to vote?
I'll hold you to that. They weren't able to vote in 2013 because at the time...
You were talking after... Wait, no, now you're conflating. We're talking after Euromaidan. That's what you said.
I'm trying to answer your question.
But you said after Euromaidan that isn't attributable to the Russian invasion.
Look, I'll just give you the answer you want to hear, and then I'll talk, okay?
The answer to the question, yes.
Yeah, the answer to the question that you want to hear is that by arming the rebels in the Donbass, Russia had escalated the conflict, and I blame them for that severely, because that is
they didn't escalate the conflict. There was no conflict. They started the conflict.
There was no conflict? Really?
I'm sorry, did Ukraine have troops in Russia at the time?
Ukraine had troops in the Donbass.
You mean in Ukraine?
Do you think killing your own people is good?
Wait, no. Stop. You're doing it again. They didn't escalate the conflict. Russia, a foreign nation, was not under attack by Ukraine. They initiated the conflict.
When are you going to give me 60 seconds of uninterrupted?
You can't say... They're like, oh, well, Ukraine had troops in the Donbass. Yeah,
Fine.
In Ukraine. That's Ukraine.
Donbass is Ukraine. I'm trying to answer as best I can, but I need 60 seconds, man. Can I just do that?
Okay, but if you lie in the first 5, I'm going to interrupt you.
I'm literally trying to be as accurate as I can, let alone not lie, okay? So if there's anything I've said that's wrong, I'd like you to point out specifically what it is.
I have been. You get mad at me when I do that.
Give me a chance to respond. I didn't get mad. I simply said you're lying by omission, right? By focusing only on a small part of why they didn't vote. Sure, one aspect, one factor is that Russia got involved. Yes, that's true. Absolutely, that's terrible. And we shouldn't be, we shouldn't be, and no country should be arming rebels against the government. Completely agree. Stability was sacrificed. So did you get what you wanted to hear? Now I'd like to spend 60 seconds.
Well, they initiated the conflict. They didn't contribute to it. And I also just want to know how these poor ethnically Russian people were kept from participating in democracy.
I'm very happy to tell you, but it takes more than 10 seconds. I can't. If you're going to cut me off after 10 seconds, I won't be able to tell you.
Okay, hit me up. I'm here to learn.
Well, thank you. And again, everything I'm saying can be backed up by PBS, BBC, Newsweek, and any mainstream source from 2014. Okay? So here's the timeline of events. I'll try to fit it in. I'm sorry, it will take me 120 seconds, 2 minutes. Okay? But it's important. This takes place before Russia's aggression. Okay? This, however, takes place with Russia's influence. Countries are influenced by other countries, especially, quote, the great powers and so on. So here's what happens. Yanukovych was democratically elected. You see, Ukraine had a democracy and people were voting for their representatives and indeed their presidents. So when Yanukovych was elected, the time to the next election was about 2 years. Now, normally, if you don't like what the government is doing, you simply you wait till the next election and you vote. We don't want the January 6th. We don't want something in Brazil resembling January 6th, and we don't want that in Ukraine.
There wasn't.
You're absolutely right that what happened in the Maidan and the overthrow of the government led to a destabilization.
They didn't overthrow the government.
Okay, they overthrew the executive branch of the government.
No, he fled. They were protesting, which is legally their right.
What happened before he fled? What happened in the days before he fled?
Protests outside government buildings, which is what protests tend to be.
Oh, it was way more than that. Do you believe January 6th to be a coup?
A coup attempt.
A coup attempt. This is January 6th times 10.
No, it wasn't.
So by every metric, by every description, carrying guns into the Capitol building, carrying guns into the Congress, overrunning barricades, by every metric, they overran the Congress. They went into the building. They had guns in every sense of the word. And it was all started when right-wing nationalists, were a small minority, started firing and then escalated conflict because many people had guns.
This was several lies in a row.
This is on Wikipedia, by the way.
It's not. I ousted you on Wikipedia.
Go to Revolution of Dignity on Wikipedia right now.
There were massive protests, and the violence was initiated when Yanukovych was told by Putin to start firing on the crowd. Yanukovych also tried to pass through his Congress a number of highly authoritarian anti-protester laws.
It's also true.
Yes.
What you're saying is true as well.
As soon as
it doesn't negate what I'm saying, which is also true.
It does, because you're lying. It was not a small group of Nazi
Wikipedia is lying. So there was an incident.
I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. Nope. Because you lie every time when you give something specific. No. What's the Wikipedia article?
The Revolution of Dignity.
Hold on.
I'm going to read verbatim from it. Okay.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. I'm going to look for the section. One moment. I mean, it's an entire large article.
The first protesters were killed in fiery clashes with police on Hrushevskovo Street on the 19th to 27th of January. Protesters occupied government buildings through the country. The deadliest crashes were on 18th to 20th of February, which saw the most severe violence in Ukraine since it regained independence. Thousands of protesters advanced towards parliament, led by activists with shields and helmets, and were fired on by police snipers.
Continue, please.
On the 21st of February, an agreement between President Yanukovych and the leaders of the parliamentary opposition was signed that called for a formation of an interim unity government, constitutional reforms, and early elections. On the following
what was wrong with that?
Huh?
What was wrong with those concessions and proposals?
No concessions. He needed to be gone.
Okay, continue.
Agreement. The following day, police withdrew from central Kiev, which came under effective control of the protesters. Yanukovych fled the city. That day, the Ukrainian parliament voted to remove Yanukovych from office by 328 to 0. With all other
I'm talking about, hold on, overran. Okay, so I wasn't prepared. Police stormed. Okay, one moment. I'm going to actually. I won't be able to do this in real time. However, what I'm trying to say is there was a time when the government offered concessions to Klitschko and right sector Dmitry Yarosh and others.
Fuck concessions.
They said it's too. Hold on, one moment. They said it's too little, too late, and he has to go. That's true. But if you look at how the violence spread, when people say who started the firing and who started the guns, it turned out, and I will find this to you later, and I encourage people.
Even if it turned out to be the protesters, I wouldn't really care. But from
No,
what
it
I've read,
wasn't
it was the
just the
police.
protesters. The civilians did have guns. However, the nationalists were sparked the initial people were wondering who fired the initial shots, to start the wave of violence. And what I'm trying to say is that was the nationalists, right? A
Even if
small
that was
number
the
of
case, it wouldn't really bother me. I don't really care. They were right to protest. Yanukovych was in the wrong.
they are allowed to protest, but when they overrun barricades and enter the Congress building, wouldn't that look like January 6th, essentially?
Yeah, the problem with January 6th was more what they were trying to do than how they did it.
To oust the
Yanukovych was
sitting
a...
president.
You,
To oust the sitting president.
yeah, well...
Or an elected president.
Yeah, the difference is January 6th was them getting angry and denying the results of a democratic election, whereas in the case of Yanukovych, he was trying to turn their country into a dictatorship. You want to hear some of these provisions, by the way? Some of the stuff he tried to pass? This is crazy.
Yanukovych is not great.
No, well, hold on. Listen, my man tried to do a one-man coup. He was a Putin stooge, and when he realized that people wasn't going along with his anti-popular decision to side with Russia over the EU on economic reform, he tried to essentially turn the country into an authoritarian dictatorship. Listen to this, okay? Criminalizing extremist activity, which according to TI Ukraine is defined in broad and vague terms with a hefty fine for a first offense and up to 3 years in jail for a repeat offense. Simplifying the process of removal of parliamentary immunity in criminal proceedings to a majority vote in the parliament. A prior review is no longer required by the parliamentary committee. Extending and applying amnesty from prosecution previously adopted by the Verkhovna Rada to those who committed crimes against protesters, including Berkut security forces and other law enforcement officials. Essentially, legally, you could do whatever you wanted against them. Murder, rape, who cares?
Oh, one moment here. I found it, by the way. I found what I was talking about. So it's under detailed timeline, okay, under Revolution of Dignity, 18 February 2014.
Drivers of motorcades of more than 5 cars causing traffic jams face the loss of their driver's license at vehicle for 2 years.
What are you talking about? The night before the clashes, right sector called.
Defamation, either by means of press or social media, carries a penalty of up to 1 year in jail.
What are you reading about?
Gathering and disseminating information about the Berkut judges or their families carries a penalty of up to 2 years in jail. I'm just reading how Yanukovych was trying to do a one-man coup by single-handedly undoing democracy.
Okay.
So
I agree with you. I am against authoritarians, as you can imagine.
Mandatory.
But what I'm trying to get you to do is read Wikipedia under detailed timeline, starting with February 18th, 2014.
All right.
Thank you.
Wait, where? Wait, on this page? Where?
It's under Revolution of Dignity, Wikipedia, under detailed timeline. It starts there.
Okay, here we go. February 18th. I'm ready. Okay.
February 18th, the Kiev metro stopped all service because of a terrorist threat. The night before the clashes, Right Sector, which I'm sure people know was the largest nationalist organization. It was armed, called on its members to ready themselves for a, quote, peace offensive on 18th February. The Maidan People's Union also urged all concerned citizens to take part in this peace offensive, which student unions had agreed to join as well. The Maidan Union reported that on the morning the columns of protesters would begin a march. Now, that morning, around 20,000 demonstrators marched on the Parliament building. Okay, January 6th, they marched on the Congress, as that body was set to consider opposition demands for a new constitution and government. Last time you asked me whether they demanded a new constitution. In fact, yes, they did, and they got it. A new constitution and government. Around 9:45, the demonstrators broke through the police barricade of several trucks near the building, Central Club of Ukraine, and pushed the cordon of police aside, similar to January 6th. The clashes started after.
You keep comparing these, just so I think this is completely based, by the way. I wish our January 6th was like this.
Interesting. So you just said that you don't like what happened in Brazil. You don't like January 6th.
Yeah, that's because the January 6th protesters were fascists. Brazil, the Bolsonaro stands, were fascist. These guys were protesting Yanukovych turning their country into an authoritarian dictatorship.
So 20,000 demonstrators marching on the Parliament building demanding a new constitution and government, to me, sounds like destabilizing the country.
For good, yeah. Destabilization is justified if it has good long-term outcomes. In this case, it did. The Putin stooge and authoritarian left, and they got a liberal democracy afterwards. Zelensky's government has overseen a great revival of Ukraine in a number of ways, in spite of the fact that Russia keeps nipping at them from the east.
Whoa, whoa. So, Vosh, just I want to understand your positions, right? Your principles. Are you saying your principles are good only for people you don't like, or people you like go and do the same thing and you support that? Like, what are your principles for stability and overthrowing governments then? I don't understand. Can you give me a consistent
Yes, it's
approach?
good when good things happen, and bad when
Uh,
bad things happen. It's
oh,
good
of
when
course.
fascists lose, and bad when good guys lose.
So you believe in good guys and bad guys.
Yes, I
You
believe in the
believe
concept of ethics. Me and every other person who's ever thought about it for more
you
than 30
literally
seconds.
sound like the Republicans who believe that there is a good and bad and a moral and a
Everyone
Christian.
believes in ethics, including you. You've been making ethical appeals the entire time we've been talking. Yes,
Sure, but I
some
didn't
groups are...
expect
No,
you to
stop,
say
stop,
it's
stop.
okay.
Some groups are better than others. Fascists leading a government are worse than leftists leading a government. So I am willing to fight for leftists leading a government, even if there's some hardship along the way, because the outcome you get from the long term is superior to the hardship you experience in the short term. This is also known as politics. This is how all politics works. Literally everything you do and fight for is going to come at the cost of something, so you better make sure that whatever you're trying to get to is ethically worthwhile, right?
I'm no, I'm completely. You're talking about a zero-sum game.
Okay,
Were
so wait, okay,
Stalin
wait,
and
okay.
Mao
So wait,
leftists in
let
your
me try
view
to
or
okay,
not?
let me try to okay, so no, we're not talking zero sum game. Okay, let me try this, okay? So the Nazis lost. That's good, right? Because the Nazis were
Yes,
bad. Okay,
yes,
well how can you possibly say that? Are you saying it's good when people lose? Are you
because they committed a genocide. They were going to kill more people.
wait, okay, wait. So let me get this straight. You think it's good when people lose just because you don't like other things they've done?
It's not just some people did something, bro. They killed an entire. They went after gypsies and Jews, and look at the Japanese, how they were genociding Chinese. Yes, that's bad,
They
man.
didn't think that
Yes,
was bad.
yes, and they were wrong.
Well, how can you bro, you sound like those Republicans.
Because I talk about killing, genociding millions of people is wrong. You're talking about if our guys win, the leftists win, we could totally destroy governments and overturn elections and constitutions. What is your standard here? So
Oh,
was
so okay,
Stalin a
one more
leftist or
time.
not? When he was robbing banks, was
No, he
he
was not.
good or bad?
Stalin was bad. Um,
Okay, so
overturning
he
and
was a leftist though, wasn't he?
overturning no, overturning an authoritarian government is good. A popular
Was
protest,
Castro a leftist?
yes. And yes, he's
Okay,
better
was
than
Mao a
Batista.
leftist? So was Mao a leftist?
It really depends on what day you met him.
I see. Well, on the day he was a leftist, was he totally cool in, confiscating the food from the villagers and causing exacerbating a famine for three
What the
years?
fuck are you talking about?
The Great Famine in China?
Are you asking if I'm pro-famine?
No, I am simply saying that you are arbitrarily choosing a label like leftist, and you're approving the
Okay,
very actions that you rail against
so
in the other case
this
because
is
they
this
create instability.
we're running all the way back. Like we're like beyond epistemics right now. We're like at the beating heart of the universe when we talk on these issues, okay? I need you to
Right. What's your
understand this.
position?
I
Consistent
think
position.
good things are good and bad things are bad.
That's a tautology that says nothing.
Oh, okay. Well,
Everyone thinks that.
then we'll build out one further, okay? I think that if you're going to overthrow the government, you'd better have a damn good reason. And it's a bad reason if you're a bunch of fascists who want to overturn the democratic election results of a liberal. But it's a good reason if you're a lunatic Putin stooge president on Black Friday or Black Thursday or whatever they called it, Black Thursday, passed a bunch of dictator laws that like
Mhm.
single-handedly turned your country into a fucking authoritarian state. If those protesters are going to like protest and go in the parliament building, I think that's really good because in that case, they're fighting for something good, the removal of authoritarianism.
Okay, so for the next 5 minutes, I just want to explore your position, okay? I'm just curious now, in many examples. So when Yeltsin fired on the parliament building in the 1993 constitutional crisis in Russia, he was doing it to protect what was the Chicago boys, essentially, the idea of shock therapy, right? Having the Russians privatize most of the stuff and the population, just like in Chile and other places, really kind of resented that. And so the Duma, which was the analog of the Rada, okay, in Ukraine, they did not like that either. So the communists, which I assume would be leftists in your view, went against Yeltsin. The United States supported Yeltsin, and Yeltsin ultimately dissolved Congress. He did what the Peru guy tried to do, but the reverse. And so basically, my question to you is, in that scenario, it seems to me that the leftists, the communists, wanted to oust Yeltsin with a vote of no confidence. You should be on their side, I guess, and against the Chicago school capitalists, correct?
I don't know enough about the situation to make a confident assertion. However, I do not generally agree with stuff that Yeltsin did or believed, so probably, but it would really depend on what they were looking towards.
Okay, so I'm just confused because I don't know if you support communists in post-Soviet Russia
I am a
or if you
communist,
support.
but
You are.
I'd like to think I am. But I don't think
So
there are a
you
lot
are a
of
communist. Okay,
communists.
so finally I have some label that you accept
I'm a
on yourself.
libertarian socialist, first and foremost.
So am I. I'm a left libertarian,
I don't know if I
which is
think you're a
funny.
libertarian.
I've consistently said that I oppose violence, and especially by large entities like states. The reason last
But
time's
you're defending
conversation was
violence by states.
I am not defending violence by states. I simply accept that we live in a world where it's still unfortunately happening because politicians can't do their job of
No,
preventing
because Russia
violence.
invaded. It is not the
Why did they
responsibility of
invade?
other politicians to magically prevent authoritarian governments from invading their neighbors. They've been doing
So I
that for
think
all
this
of
would be
human history.
productive. This would be a productive mode. I would ask you questions. So do you understand that Putin has an over 80% approval rating right now in Russia by the public, right?
Sure. I don't know
Okay.
how reliable those figures are, and I could dispute those figures with others because you are literally criminally penalized for any kind of public dissent against him. But
Yeah, but these are supposed to be anonymized. And just to be clear,
yeah,
for example, the Duma, okay, which is the Russian Congress, has abysmal ratings. It's much less than
well,
Putin
he's a
himself.
strongman. But yeah, I can accept that he's a popular strongman with Russians.
Okay. Do you also understand that the Russian public supports this war? Still, the majority does.
I believe so. Again, these numbers are unreliable, but nobody really knows for sure. I'm just going to go with if they do, then sure. I accept the premise.
Okay. If they do, my question is why? Why would an entire country support a war that you yourselves are saying is unprovoked and unjustified? So in their mind, they are justifying it somehow, aren't they?
Because people tend to support their government when they live in authoritarian governments that control the media. I mean,
So
it's
how,
all state
okay,
media
let's say
over
that's
there.
the case. I'm just exploring your perspective. So you believe that China and the Chinese public and media supports Russia also because they're part of an authoritarian government, correct?
I don't think the Chinese people, the Chinese government is lukewarm on Russia right now. I don't think the Chinese people have very strong ideological ties to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
The official position of China is that there should be a diplomatic and a negotiated settlement solution to this war,
Right,
and
which
that
is a pro-Russian sentiment, but it's not the most full-throated one you could possibly give.
right. India, for example, if you continue with these billion population countries, India has historic ties with Russia and friendship with Russia. So of course were very reluctant to they abstained from condemning it in the United Nations and so on.
But of
They've
what
actually
relevance is
increased
this?
because I'm trying to tell you that tacitly countries with billions of people, perhaps the majority of the human population, actually are on the side of what I am saying, which is that, and hear me out, is that the leaders of Russia and Stoltenberg and NATO and the United States have failed to avert a misunderstanding that
Wait,
has
hold on.
now.
Wait, really quick, really quick. This is
Mhm.
retarded, and I don't care. First of all, do not assume that all the fucking desperately poor people in India, because their government has ties to Russia, are like ideologically supportive. If you go up to your average fucking Indian and are like, yeah, dude, so why do you believe that the people of the West have failed to prevent the bull? Like, they would just punch you and take your shoes, and you would deserve it. Now, even if we accept 5 billion, trillion, bajillion, million people are all evil, I don't fucking care. People believe the shit that they hear. Most people don't really think on this stuff that much. The Russian government makes a great effort to propagandize to their people. Whether or not that large number of people agree or disagree is irrelevant to me. They better put up
No
or shut up.
problem. I'm trying to establish your consistent point of view. Okay.
Wait,
So when I go to
nothing here speaks to my consistency. I don't derive my ethics from the from the will of the masses.
No problem. I'm saying self-consistent with yourself, right? You can be like Walt Whitman, where you say, "Do I contradict myself?" Very well, I contradict myself. I'm large. I contain multitudes. But I think that ultimately, if you're going to argue for something, you should have a consistent position.
I have not demonstrated any inconsistencies in my beliefs.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand your beliefs here. Okay.
Okay.
So when I go to worldsocialistwebsite.org,
please just get to the point of it. There are
I'm getting
tons
to
of
the
people
point.
who disagree
I'm trying to ask you a question.
Socialists are all retards. I'm the only non-retarded socialist on earth.
You're the only non-retarded socialist.
Yes, I don't care if every single one of them disagree.
I am asking your opinion. NATO had a meeting in Spain. They had basically protesters come out. They were all leftists, all socialists. This was in May. And they literally protested against NATO because, in their words, NATO led to this conflict by expanding and not listening to Russia's bright red lines.
Right. I don't care.
You don't care.
No.
Okay.
I've been arguing with these people for like the past 11 months now. These people are usually just fascists who use leftism as a way of optically covering for their Russia defense.
It's not optically. I'm saying there are millions of leftists out there, like the Pope, who said that NATO's barking at Russia's door. Pope Francis is not a leftist.
No. Is he a socialist? Does he believe in mass decommodification and seizing the means of production for the proletariat?
I think he largely does, and he derives it from Christian values like you shall have all things in common and many other teachings.
He's not a leftist. He's liberal leaning relative
as you.
To Popes. Yes,
okay, fine. He's liberal. Fine. So on the Overton window, he's pretty left. Okay.
He's fine. He's good for a pope, I guess.
Okay, and these socialists, literal socialists, and the website, and literally everyone who is on the left here in Europe.
No, not literally everyone, but it doesn't matter. It could be literally. It could be literally everyone. Where are you testing the consistency of my values? Where is this happening?
You're making the claim that you don't like the right-wing nationalists to win. Fine. But what I'm saying is your ideological allies, and mine, in some sense, which is the socialists, for example, in Spain, I can go through many countries, but even within Europe, within NATO countries, I'm saying there is a large contingent of leftists who are blaming NATO.
Yeah,
right?
I argue
So it's
with them.
not a completely outlandish thing to say what I'm saying.
So it doesn't matter. Wait, it is. There are lots of retards. Everyone is retarded, except for me. That's my consistent position. I hold to it with the grace and temerity of a ballet dancer.
But you can understand why that's not convincing to the rest of the world.
No,
right?
I make arguments to convince people. And that's something I'm failing to hear from you, by the way. You're testing my consistency. I will disagree with any number of people for any length of time. I love arguing. It's I
enjoy it too. In fact, I enjoy reasoned arguments that disagree with me.
No, there are no reasoned arguments that disagree with me. There's just brain damage. That's it. That's all I've ever encountered, ever, from anyone, especially other leftists. They're the worst of them all. The only group worse than fucking fascists is other lefties who are pretending not to be fascists when they're talking with me. What?
No problem.
Where is the inconsistency in my beliefs? Where do I err?
Tell you. I can tell you the apparent inconsistency, and I'd love for you to cure it. I just would like to remark that libertarians have this issue too. Many libertarians think that they are the actual libertarians, and these other libertarians are fake libertarians. So I've heard it across the political spectrum.
Yeah, well, it's true.
But sure. Well, I'm glad you think you're a snowflake, but okay. Listen, I do too sometimes. Here's the thing, man. It's that I've heard you say in the same conversation that you're against right-wing nationalists in the United States, and that if they started to take power, you would welcome overthrowing their government. But when right-wing nationalists in Ukraine, for example, participate on the side of overthrowing their government, you turn a blind eye to those nationalists who are descendants of the actual
I don't turn a blind eye. Wait, hold on.
Why?
Wait, don't take me out of this. I don't turn a blind eye. I celebrate it. Every right-wing nationalist Ukrainian who participated at Euromaidan to oust Yanukovych is a hero to his people. Regardless of their ideology broadly, in that one instance, perhaps entirely by accident, they stumbled into the correct position. Even if they're bad people, they've champions of circumstance, perhaps.
I don't, by the way, this is where you and I differ too. I don't think that they're bad in order because they think that Bandera is a national hero any more than I think the Southern people who wanted to secede from the North think that General Lee is a national hero and they put a statue to him. That's, of course, very terrible for Black people living in the South because they had the KKK. So looking at a statue of General Lee, who himself may not have actually owned slaves, I don't know. And Bandera himself may not have actually killed people because he was mostly in a Nazi prison most of the time. So I am saying to you this as a Jew, as someone whose family was actually killed by Ukrainians. And after the war, the organization Bandera started continued to do it. And even so, I'm telling you, I'd rather see people talk about statues peacefully than toppling a government and causing and leading to what is happening now. You think there's no connection between the instability after Maidan
Sure,
and the
there is.
anti-Maidan?
There's a direct connection. Russia.
Of course there is. Yes.
Yeah,
They had
Russia.
the Maidan.
And we're dealing with them now, so hey, maybe it won't be a problem in the future.
Imagine if Russia never got involved and never even annexed Crimea. Okay. Imagine if simply
if Russia had never
millions-
got Yanukovych was a Russian puppet though. Putin was literally giving him orders as a sovereign leader of another country. To remove Russia from Ukraine, you would have to like fundamentally restructure their society. They've been a country at siege since the moment the Berlin Wall fell.
I don't mean to insult you by saying this, but you don't have a lot of knowledge about, you're so simplistic about Yanukovych was a stooge of Putin. In fact, Yanukovych was often a thorn in the side of Russia. In fact, sometimes Belarus actually supported Ukraine over Russia. It's much more complex than simply he did whatever Putin told him to do.
He did many of the things he was told to. He was not literally an automaton, but he was absolutely 100% in the pocket of Putin. That's not even questionable.
Most importantly, look, I think the broad conversation, and perhaps one day we'll have a conversation about libertarianism versus statism, because you're clearly not a anarchist.
I think that you're a statist.
I think that you're the guy who is literally talking about countries as if they are people. I am talking about individuals, and I'm saying that they should look at the idea of a state as being something secondary to not killing children.
I'm uninterested. Russia should stop killing children.
Yes, and so should everyone else.
Great. Thank you. Very helpful. Walking into Auschwitz-Birkenau and reminding all the Jews and Nazis alike with great gusto that we should all get along and stop killing each other, and then walking out and leaving, and then you see the smokestack start rolling again. Yeah, unfortunately, we need to be a bit direct with our condemnations.
Because you like to come in the end when everyone's already at each other's throats and there's been a genocide and people have freaking died and been genocided, and then you come in and you're like, these guys are bad. Okay, see, you're right.
I would have gone into Auschwitz-Birkenau and said, yeah, these guys are bad. What is it? Yeah, what of it? That is true. I would have been very simplistic in my analysis while walking into Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Can you tell me what you would have actually said, like as if it
if I was one of the liberating of the Allied people who went to Auschwitz, I wouldn't be saying anything. I'd be lining people up and shooting them. I wouldn't be saying anything.
And here's what I would be doing.
If you did, if I was okay, listen up, Private. If you're in my fucking platoon, I see you doing a single fucking thing with those Krauts that isn't borderline war crime material. Okay, you're joining them.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you just said.
All right, never mind. Continue.
Okay. I'm trying to say that I look at what led up to that. I think that we need to look throughout world history at repeating patterns. And this is why you disagree with Chomsky and you disagree with me, because intelligent people in every other area of life look at patterns. That's what intelligence is. You look at what the main factors are and what they affect. And then you're like, oh, you see when you don't do this thing? Yeah, this is what happens. Okay?
Yeah, so you walk around Auschwitz-Birkenau and you go, wow, fascists really should never be in power, huh? And then you think, damn, 80 years from now, if Russia ever does an invasion on a liberal democracy, this time, I'm going to support them before they take control of the whole country.
Yeah, see, that's you. And what I'm saying is, I don't know if that's you. I was a little confused there. But here's what I am going to do. I am me, so I know what I would do, right? What I would do is what I told you last time. put in place. Remember how I told you the insurance companies have seen thousands of cases. The banks have seen thousands of cases. International diplomacy and trade has seen thousands of cases. These are not new things.
We already
We
have
know.
the UN. Russia didn't respond to the sanctions. They're too poor, and Putin doesn't give a shit about his people. He just tanked the sanctions, built an internal market, and then kept doing the bad stuff.
Yeah, but you keep focusing on straw men. I'm trying to tell you what I would actually do. Do you want to hear it? Do you want to hear how we
how would it
avoid?
have prevented the Russian invasion of Ukraine?
There's so many things that you could have done to prevent the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Are you kidding? First of all, let's start with your values. You believe in democracy. You believe in people peacefully electing their leaders, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
As long
All
as those
Ukraine
leaders
had to
aren't
do,
gay.
whatever. All Ukraine had to do was wait until the next election. Wow, what a concept. That's what we want in this country. Do we want in this country?
Wait, you mean, wait until
Yeah.
the next election before protesting?
No, again, I want to be clear. Protesting is fine.
You seem to
Even,
take issue with it.
well, I think that it leads, as you can see, it can lead to toppling a government, like in all the Arab Spring countries, or like in all the,
Okay, so
in
protesting
Yemen.
is fine. Okay, what about just flat out like removing Yanukovych? Isn't that based? He's an authoritarian.
Totally not base.
How do you know there's even going to be another election? He literally just tried to institute an authoritarian
So
government.
you're happy in, like if Haiti right now has political unrest and removes their government, you're happy.
Depends on the government. If the government's
See,
really
for me, it
bad,
doesn't depend on the government
it
as long as
depends
the
on the
government
government. Okay,
isn't
wait, hold on,
executing.
wait. What about removing the Nazi government? Huh? What if back in 1994, a group
Sure,
of
Mr.
like
God
Jewish
wins the law.
revolutionaries and like would-be partisans could have like stormed the Nazi offices and ousted them? Would that have been
You
good?
know what I'm going to say? I said it last time. You go a little bit further back and you make sure that the Nazis are never
You
even
can't
elected.
actually rewind time. That's not literally a power
And
you
why are
have.
you rewinding time then?
Because I'm talking about what you would do in a situation where there's already an authoritarian leader, as there was with Yanukovych.
Oh, there's plenty of authoritarian leaders right now around the world. I'll
Yeah,
tell
they
you
should
what
be
it would
ousted.
do. You empower the moderates. You make sure to lift sanctions.
I don't want
from North
moderates in
Korea and
charge. I
Iran.
want fucking radicals in charge.
Okay, do you support the JCPOA, the Iran deal, for example?
I support the Iran deal.
Why? Doesn't it empower moderates and lift sanctions on
Because it was the best we could
these
get.
repressive theocratic regimes?
It was the best we could get under those circumstances, and I think it was a lot better than not having it.
Okay,
But that has
do
nothing
you
to do with
think-
protest. We're
Do
talking
you
about
think if
international
Trump
law.
hadn't come in and destroyed that agreement unilaterally with Bibi Netanyahu helping, argue against it, do you think if that didn't happen and today Iran had inspectors and had sanctions lifted, do you think that the middle class in Iran would be more integrated or less integrated
Wait,
with the
I'm
rest
in
of the world?
favor. I'm fully in support of like opening up relations with Iran
So
and
am I.
appealing to the people there.
So am I. And guess why? Because under my value system, right, even though they may have a theocratic regime that is kind of crazy, even though the best thing in my view, I haven't seen anything better, is to put inspectors to make sure that this regime, first of all, doesn't develop weapons of mass destruction that are more lethal than the current ones. And secondly, and more importantly, empower the middle class by removing sanctions to engage with the rest of the world. And I would do the same with North Korea or Cuba or anything else. These people want to trade with the rest of the world, even though they're communists. They want to trade with capitalists. Let them do it. So yes, I don't care what their repressive government is composed of. These people will die eventually, probably. Okay? So why not simply let the rest of the people engage with the rest of the world?
I just like it when good things happen and when bad things don't. If we're talking about what we can do with Iran, then the Iran deal was what we had on the table and we can do our best. But the ultimate hope with the Iran deal would have been something more in line with what I would support. Because the idea of opening up Iran to the rest of the world is that eventually the people there would have the information and support necessary to oust the Ayatollah. And that ousting would go a hell of a lot more bloodily than Yanukovych's would, I will tell you that much. I don't think he's going to get a clean break to the country he was a puppet of. That's my
Or it
hope.
could even go, it can even happen gradually. Like some socialists believe that you can vote people in gradually.
I don't think the
Dude,
Ayatollah
yeah,
is going to let them vote him out.
he's gonna be dead like in, I don't know, a couple decades maybe, or a decade.
A couple decades? Oh, let's just wait then. Perhaps Hitler rampaging across Europe for another 50 years would have been fine. No, whatever date you can move that up on is fine by me. Empowering the Iranian people to effectively fight back against the Ayatollah and his regime as quickly as possible under any means is probably the best thing you could do for the well-being of the Iranian people. The regime is not
So in
popular.
one thing, I completely agree with you. I think we are on the side of the people, and we want to empower people and have more democracy, more power by the people. So we agree there. We also agree that good things are good and bad things are bad. I know all those other people are crazy, but we agree on that. Wow. But you see, the thing is, you're not saying anything. Yes, obviously, good things are good. But when you
I just
self-identify
said
with
lots of
leftists,
specific things.
no, but when you say, you've said things like, I want leftists to topple the governments of right-wing people, and I think
Yes.
that, okay, but somehow to you, the right-wing nationalists of Ukraine with the leftists or
No.
whatever, I
Okay,
don't
wait.
know.
No, this is like some square peg, square hole shit, okay? It's not. So this is you getting overly focused on people's moral worth and not what's actually happening. The far-right nationalists who participated in the Euromaidan protests in Ukraine may have, as people, had bad politics, but the thing they were pushing for was right. They were pushing for it alongside tens of thousands of regular Ukrainians. What I care about are the actual actions. If Nazis want to do good things around the world, then fine, great. Literally the best case scenario. They don't usually do that, unfortunately. But if they wanted to, I would support them. And
Well,
likewise, there are
I'm
people
not
who
the
are
only one who
individually
makes
good who
triggering
support
statements. I
monstrous
happen to
things.
agree with what you said. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
and it goes the other way with good people supporting monstrous things. It's about outcomes. So in this case here, this is a fully coherent ideology. When it comes to revolutionary action or like toppling governments or whatever, yes, I think it would be okay to topple the Iranian government. It's not democratic at all. It's
How
incredibly
about not
repressive.
toppling and preserving, as you said, stability, which is your
No, no,
one
no,
of
no,
your
no, no, no,
values?
no. Stability is only good if the thing that's stable is good. If you're stabilizing bad things, then it's
And who
bad.
decides what is good or bad? You do?
Yes, correct. It's an ethical position that I hold and will argue for. But I think
Yeah,
most
but don't
people
you
would
think that
agree.
others should
Wait, wait,
have access?
stop. Hold on. Stop pretending that you're an ethical nihilist. You've already agreed you don't like the
I'm not an
Nazis.
ethical nihilist. I just simply think that others should have access to your brain and your method of deciding what's good or bad, shouldn't they?
Do I really
Independently
need
of
to
your
explain why
oracle.
the Ayatollah is bad?
Dude, bad, good. This is what I'm talking about.
No, no, it's not. You're not talking about ethics. That's the
No,
problem.
bad and good is what I'm, okay, comma. This is what I'm talking about. This black and white, Christian versus Muslim,
Okay, hold
bad
on.
versus
Wait,
good.
really
This
quickly.
is the thing
Really
that leads
quickly.
to
Okay,
war.
wait, really quickly. Which I'm sorry, we need to keep pulling this, okay? You said you literally lost family in the Holocaust, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you are now talking with an SS member, okay? They're part of the Schutzstaffel, all right? It's the guy who was in Inglorious Bastards with the white beard, okay? He's got like a
What
little
is the
Luger on
year?
his side.
Guessing
Okay,
it's not now.
you're
Yeah.
talking directly to this person now, okay? He's got a little Luger. He does a little German tihi, the way that he did in the
I
movie
don't
that
know.
everyone saw. Okay,
I didn't
if
see the movie.
you now have to talk this guy out of his own behavior because every second this guy walks a bit, okay, he's going to be finding Jews in basements. All right, so let's talk with this guy. This is now the hypothetical conversation we're having. Okay, so you were claiming who even knows what's good or bad? Is that it? Was that what we were
No,
on?
I was not. What I'm saying to you is your claim to unilaterally decide what's good and bad is not good for actual policy
Okay,
because no
he
one
just said
has
that to you.
access to
Okay,
your
wait.
brain.
Ja, meine Freunde, your piggish Western arrogance in saying this is bad, he says he's grabbing a Jewish guy out of a basement. This is not conducive to good behavior.
I don't know how you look with that mustache right now, but I'd love to see the video later.
I've
Can you
got a
send me
full
the
beard.
video?
It's
Uh,
safe. It's safe for me to do it. Do you
okay, but
understand the issue here? Like the
dude,
world.
I'm really trying to like both understand you and get through to you. I don't know which to do because which one to aim at first. So now I'm supposed to react to a hypothetical Nazi that I'm talking to in
You are
1940
you
what?
are arguing for like a kind of total moral relativism where
No, I am not. I am
okay,
simply saying your moral decisions you are self-proclaimed to be from your own brain, and every other leftist is an idiot. So if that's the
yes,
case,
it's a
then
recurring feature of my streams.
first of all, if every other leftist is an idiot, why would you want these leftists to topple governments if they're all idiots and
That's
they're not?
That's
They
actually a
don't
good
share your
question.
values.
No, no, no. You actually hit on the nose on that one. I struggle with that sometimes. You know, it's oh yeah,
Finally,
revolutionary
gotcha.
partisans one day, and the next day all these fucking MLs are out here doing fascism 2.0, except with red
Hear
flags.
that, lefties? Apparently, he disdains you. No, I'm just kidding, man. You have a great fan base. I don't understand you, man. I mean, on the one hand, you're saying
No,
all these things.
wait. You're claiming you don't understand me because I've said I think it would be okay to topple the Ayatollah's regime. Is that really like a
Okay, I get it.
disagreeable position?
Punch a Nazi, topple the fascists. I get it.
But
And
but
these
but no,
idiot
but
lefties will
don't
do
say
it
it
for you.
sarcastically. Yes, that topple the
Yes,
fascist.
no, I'm not
Yes.
saying it sarcastically. You're so simplistic with it, but fine. Let's
Okay,
go with
but you
it.
start with that. And the complexity is, how do you do that in the most helpful way? Because in
Do you
reality,
understand my position, though? It's a little bit more nuanced than yours, but
no, but we
the
haven't gotten
libertarian
to my
position.
no, wait, please. We haven't gotten to my
Do you
position.
care?
You
You don't
start
care. Okay.
you start at the position you
Yeah.
start at is you
Yeah.
know
See, I'm
no,
totally not with you on
please.
this whole black and white.
Toppling fascists is good. That's the position you start at. But then you think, okay, well, definitions for fascism kind of vary, and depending on what you mean by toppling, like what do you actually mean by that? And what you do is you go into it and think, okay, how do I actually
Mhm.
apply this system in a way that makes the world a better place, you know? Because all forms of revolutionary violence are not equal at all. Most people will defend in concept, like overthrowing the Nazis before they did the Holocaust. Most people will defend that in concept. Very few people understand the logic why. When do you actually draw that line? Because we can't see into the future in the real world. Nobody in 1933 could have envisioned World War II or the Holocaust in its entirety. They might have seen some signs, some indications, but not the whole picture. So how then can you ever make an informed decision on whether it's time to engage in revolutionary violence without knowing
How
whether or not
indeed?
it's going to happen in the future?
Perhaps you should not. But listen,
No, that's how the Nazis won. No, that's the wrongest answer. You can't say, oh, it's difficult to decide, therefore we have to let every fascist regime just march ahead until we get...
So listen, I've seen revolutions and counter-revolutions. I've seen the Red Terror. I've seen the Jacobean Terror. I've seen all the revolutions have the counter-revolutions that believed, oh, we did it wrong this time. We're going to counter now revolution. Listen, I get it. Act, ready, fire, aim. I got it.
No, it was the Nazis, man.
The Nazis. It was the Nazis, man.
It was the
Literally,
Nazis.
that's a great sound clip. What? So your
no,
whole
don't what me.
Nazis?
It was the Nazis. Any if the SDP, if any of the communists or whatever back in Germany had taken over, they would not have done World War II and the Holocaust. The entire World War II Holocaust combo fun package was entirely a product of the specific ideology of the Nazis. It could have been stopped if you had a good eye for that.
But what about the Red Terror? What about the Great Terror of Stalin? What about Mao?
I don't defend Stalin. I don't defend
Nazis. Who are
yes,
so who are those?
Stalin was Nazis. Sure, probably.
Okay, Stalin was
50%.
Nazis. Mao
yes.
was Nazis.
Mao is a fucking retard, dude. He tried to get farmers to do pig iron, okay?
The Cultural Revolution and the killings was that Nazis?
Everything I don't like is Nazis. Can we move on from that specific rhetorical line?
Fine, I get you're astute and
I'm trying. All I'm talking about here is that you need to have a standard for when it's acceptable.
Everything I don't like is Nazis. Like literally, you're great for sound clip. Like, what are you talking? Everything good is good. Everything bad is bad. Everything I don't like is Nazis. Thank you. And we have to destroy Nazis. If you
approach all potential revolutionary action as like it's equal, like, oh, well, this could all go bad, so it doesn't matter. That is very, very, very,
How about we first try the non-revolutionary action?
So the problem is that in reality, right now, the situations we're talking about have already reached the point of violence. Russia already invaded Ukraine.
When shit has already hit the fan and millions of people are dead. I get it. That's when you come in on your white knight and you say, you people must be killed in a court of law and then we're going to execute you triple times. Yes, I get it.
Yes, I agree with the political objectives of the Nuremberg trials. That is true.
We got it. We executed all the Nazis and now all the Nazis are
not
dead.
enough, clearly. Anyway, listen, stop. If you want to build a system that prevents stuff like this from happening in the future,
Yes.
Sometimes it's going to come down to violence. We had this talk last time too. How do you stop Russia from doing this? Oh, well, I would create systems that would... Okay, what happens if they ignore those systems and just do it anyway?
Can we get into that for a second here?
Can you... Okay. I want you to construct right now some kind of international regulatory body or any system at all that could have kept Russia from invading Ukraine, that Russia could not have overcome simply by going, I'm just going to do it anyway.
Yeah, sure. But before I do, can I read something for 10 seconds? A quote from, In 2008, Burns, then the American ambassador to Moscow, wrote to the Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Ukrainian entry into NATO is the brightest of all red lines for the Russian elite, not just Putin. In more than 2.5 years of conversations with key Russian players, from the knuckle draggers in the dark recesses of the Kremlin to Putin's sharpest liberal critics, I have yet to find anyone who views Ukraine in NATO as anything other than a direct challenge to Russian interests. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you the reality.
Good.
Okay, the reality is we live in a world with countries and publics, okay? The Russian public, including the sharpest liberal critics of Putin, believe that NATO is being provocative to Russia's legitimate... Okay, but can I finish?
No, you've already failed. No, stop. You've already failed. We've already hit the first hurdle. No, stop. It's the first. No, that's over. It's over. It's done. If they can be if they can be propagandized into fighting against a system that doesn't actually pose a threat to them, then you accept my premise. There is no safety net. It's not actually possible to prevent authoritarian governments from doing shit.
No, I don't accept your premise.
Because they could just lie to their public and manufacture consent.
Okay, first of all, NATO is not a purely defensive alliance. Okay,
stop. I know you've got a fucking spiel, pro-Russia spiel you want to go on.
No,
we are exclusively talking about threat to Russia. Threat to Russia, which it did not exist.
So let me get this straight. An alliance that calls itself purely defensive, but yet attacks Libya and also Yugoslavia.
Whatever you're about to say, yes, correct. Not a threat to Russia. Move on.
Yugoslavia is now splintered into multiple countries because of like the attacks. Look, I understand. Everyone thinks there's a genocide going on. They need to intervene. I get it. Putin said the same thing. Look, Putin thought there was in the Donbass. Like he literally was wrong.
There was, yes. He lied. He didn't think there was.
No,
he lied about it.
Literally, that's the justification for going into Libya. Gaddafi is killing.
We're not talking about Libya. We're talking about
NATO. NATO is not purely a defensive.
No, listen. We're not. I didn't say it's purely defensive. I said, and this is an objective fact.
That's what they're saying.
I claimed that they pose no threat to Russia, which is true.
How do you know the future? How do you know they pose no threat to Russia?
Because I'm just that smart. Can we move on from this? They didn't. You would have to be delusional. You would have to be delusional. No, stop. No, stop. Military interventions in 2 areas that people talk about. Fucking Serbia, which was doing a genocide, and Libya, which is a complicated clusterfuck. This has nothing to do with the idea that floating the concept of Ukraine maybe one day joining in with NATO poses some kind of military threat to Russia. It's not true. It's delusional. It's delusional. They're psychotic. I'm hearing schizo voices are speaking to me from the rafters of my room, and they're telling me it could pose a threat to Russia. But you have to ignore them. We all hear them, and they're all fake.
I hear you. So your argument boils down to, trust me, bro, I'm right.
No.
Now shut up.
If that's what resonates most with you, then yes. It's not a threat to Russia.
I'm saying if you came to the Russian public...
I don't care.
On TV,
why would I care what the Russian public thinks?
Bro,
have you talked to people?
NATO does not pose a threat to you. They never will attack you. Now shut up.
Correct.
And stop worrying about
that. Now we might attack them depending on how Ukraine goes. So, hey, we'll see. That's Putin's
which
fault
is my point. Things that could have previously not been the case become the case.
Yes, you are correct. NATO doesn't pose a threat to Russia, instantly remediated by the fact of, oh, well, we could just invade the rest of the world and make ourselves a threat to NATO. Yes, obviously. Maybe Russia could just not do that, you know?
I am saying, yes, Russia should not do that. No one should do that. No one should invade other countries and kill people. Correct.
Well, great. Let's keep Russia from doing it by funding Ukraine.
But what I'm trying to say is, okay, first of all, I kind of see your point. Your point is this. Look, trust me, bro, I'm smart. I'm right. NATO
you also haven't explained how you could prevent Russia from doing this, by the way.
Yeah, because all I had the time to do is read a quote from Burns, the ambassador to Moscow,
You read the
who
quote
said,
before in our previous convo, and I don't care about it
I
now.
don't think I did. I
You
don't think I
did,
did.
and they lied. Who cares? NATO doesn't pose a threat to Russia. Doesn't. I don't. It's the height of delusion to believe this. That NATO, which has so far done like one, a genocide preventing bombing run in fucking Serbia, and two, the Libya quagmire, would go like, yeah, for my third round, I'm going to start World War III by invading Russia, a country with nuclear
We have
weapons, for no
this is
reason.
what you have to accept. You're a smart guy, but you have to understand that other people make points that you have to engage with. You can't just simply tell them to shut up. And what I'm saying is,
I've
for example,
engaged with your points.
so my point, like my point applied, for example, in Serbia and Yugoslavia is the same. Serbia gave up. The reason that only 500 civilians died is because Serbia didn't continue to get weapons from Russia and other places.
Yeah, because we
and
bombed
continue
them
to
with
fight
our
against NATO.
bombs.
They gave up, and they gave up Milosevic. They gave up. They gave up. Okay, so that's good because the rest of the people were not. The country wasn't destroyed, you see, and their economy is not in the dumps, unlike Libya, which is a failed state and completely destroyed. Okay,
I would have bombed them more.
yeah, I'm sure you'd like that. Listen,
Yeah,
all I'm trying to say to you is I like to not kill people and not topple governments.
Oh, great. Well, then you should support
governments if they're
systems which prevent fascists from taking power, because they are the ones who like to do that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think that
no,
I have
what do you can't. Hey, bro. Can you? Here's my question: how do I get my foot to stop hurting? Maybe stop stubbing your toe over and over deliberately against the wall.
Got it. So by eliminating all
Anyway.
fascist governments, we're gonna usher in a time of peace because wait, Stalin was a fascist and Mao was a fascist.
Yes,
on
correct.
Tuesday.
I don't know why you keep going back to them. By the way, you've gone back to them as much as I've gone back to
because there's
Hitler.
literally I don't know who is an approved person
Stop
by you.
asking about approved people and start directly addressing stuff
We
I
overthrow
believe.
everybody, and you're a libertarian, sure, yeah.
Stop.
Who is
just my beliefs, my positions.
Your position. Okay, what about what I'm saying? Can I say something now? I've been listening to your positions.
Well, can I get some way of preventing Russia from having done this? Oh my God, it's been 2 hours. This happened again. This happened the
You
first
prevent
time.
Russia from having done this 20 different ways. You allow, for example, if Putin had applied to NATO when he first wanted to in 2001, and NATO would have accepted him, boom, the whole thing is solved, right?
Okay, well, we didn't want him in our club.
Yeah, why?
Because he's smelly. What else could we have done?
Yeah, you're so flippant. Man,
no, it's just like, thank you for your advice. So are you saying then the best thing that we can do to prevent fighting is to invite as many countries as possible into NATO?
One of the things we could do is require our elected leaders to do their job and to do it in the open and not behind closed doors. So when Gorbachev got the promises from NATO not to expand, I would have required them to sign that.
Promises. They were not signed into paper. Also, I want NATO to expand.
Why not?
Because Gorbachev is retarded. What do you mean? He didn't get him on paper.
Okay, so now we've got two retarded situations.
Yes, they're all retarded situations. You can't base foreign policy based on promises that aren't written down. How does that... Well, like, oh yeah, our treaty specifies X, but also this incredibly damning bit of the document. Well, we just like said that at a meeting. Yeah, you know, that just got said.
I think your tagline is almost very smart. Your tagline is politics is dumb, but it's really important, right? So I would make a small adjustment to that. Our politicians fail us, and then we go to die for them, and they don't.
Stop with this fake anti-statism. You are a statist, okay? This isn't clever. Thank you for your incredible wisdom of, dude, what if like we just didn't like do wars? Thank you. Well, a war is happening.
What about like if like Putin actually applied to NATO? Like, what about that?
That happened 20 years ago. Is that seriously your advice? Is that your wise?
To NATO. Zelensky applied to NATO. Finland applied to NATO. Russia did not.
Then what are we talking about?
I'll tell you this. The USSR...
No, stop! No, stop running around, okay? None of this means anything. You are the kind of guy who contributed to the environment that let your relatives die. You know why America didn't get involved in World War II earlier? Because pseudo anti-interventionist xenophobes called the America First movement, along with their allies, made a deliberate effort to gum up the works of American military intervention, and we did so with low IQ, fucking pseudo anti-interventionist language like, you know, the Nazis are doing some bad stuff over there, but would we really not worsen the problem? What happened the last time we got involved in a European war? It's not our business. Maybe we should focus on our own people. You have no fucking right to talk about keeping people from getting hurt when you laugh at the idea that we should keep fascists from taking government. You chuckled at that. That was like a joke. Oh, what an outlandish suggestion. The ideology that is the bedrock of mass murder. Maybe we shouldn't let them in? Russia is fascist. Yanukovych was a puppet for fascists. Ukraine today, defending itself right now, isn't. It's a liberal democracy, in spite of the heinous anti-democratic claims you've made, where they were apparently unable to enfranchise millions of people because of a, what? Russian invasion. You are contributing to the problem. You may think you're doing it because you're anti-statist. In reality, I think you're anti-action. I think you want to analyze frameworks and sit back and condemn every imaginable real-world thing that can be done. You criticize me for showing up after things have happened. That's how all time works. You always show up after things have happened. It's not possible to show up before things happen. You always get there at the moment you get there. And it's frustrating to talk with you because I genuinely enjoy these conversations, but it's like, fuck. We can't.
I would enjoy these conversations. And by the way, I've listened to you for 3 minutes. I think I deserve
That's true.
one.
No, that was fair of you. Thank you. That was very kind of you.
Sure. No, I think this mode is great. If you let me talk for a little bit too. Look, I'm not going to bring up the victim blaming card or the fact that you just said what you said or any of that.
You can bring it up.
Look,
I'll personal tragedy. No. The personal tragedies of your family did not happen in a vacuum. They are a product of decisions and systems.
But I think we have
a responsibility to prevent from happening again.
Right, but I think I, especially as a descendant of people who were killed in the Holocaust, get to at least say some words from my perspective, right, without getting interrupted 10 seconds in every time.
That sounds like a bull, but I'll allow it.
All right, all I'm trying to say to you is, man, is that more, things in heaven and earth that fit in your philosophy, which is, by the way, a very simplistic philosophy. Good things are good, bad things are bad, Nazis are bad, fascists are bad. Mm-hmm. I call these people fascists. I am smart. These leftists are idiots. I decide who's a fascist, and therefore I decide whether a specific destabilization of a country is good or bad, depending on what I think. Even if the Russians were wrong about NATO expansion, which is the majority of all their leaders, even if they're wrong, you have to deal with them because that is what they believe. And that is what happens. When a couple goes into a therapist's office, one of them could be totally wrong, but you have, in order to save the marriage without, violent things and divorces and whatever, you can do it. But you have to actually listen with empathy to the other person's, let's say, legitimate security concerns. You think they're not legitimate. You say, get over yourself. We're never going to invade you. Just shut up. Just shut up. Great song, by the way. But the thing is, at the end of the day, though, that is a terrible way to prevent conflicts. So your whole thing is, you're going to come in after the conflict and be like, they killed your family. Now shut up and sit down. Let me tell you what you could have done. And what I'm telling you, try saying that to some other people. But anyway, what I'm trying to say to you is this, is that we are currently before the Taiwan conflict. We are currently before another flare-up in Nagorno-Karabakh. Things are developing, and guess what we have? Intelligence. Intelligence means looking at patterns and seeing what works and what doesn't. You seem to only care about one thing. Let's topple Nazis. Okay, but what about everything else? And you're telling me I don't have solutions? Man, look me up on Google. I've worked for 10 years building nonviolent solutions, which I could talk about some other time. And it's a completely different subject, and you would be less triggered and you'd love it. But yes, I am a tech bro. And you know what tech does? One thing it does online? People don't kill each other online. Or if they do, they say, kill me again because I got fragged in Quake or whatever. Yeah, I'm old, so I liked Quake. But the point is that, yes, you can do a lot of things online which result in dispute resolution and collaboration and getting things done without anyone ever getting hurt. I would like more of that. I would like more of the internet and what we're doing now, and an alternative to the media, which is top-down, radicalizes people, the state, which you think I am for, which top-down gets people into the army to kill each other, and these politicians never even so much as come next to the battlefield. So yeah, I am a libertarian. I do actual non-violent solutions to things. I've spent 10 years doing it. You've been talking, I've been building it, and that's fine. I can talk about that. But at the end of the day, there are solutions, and I'd love to tell you about them some other time. But this time, I'm telling you that your solution of going and killing some Nazis may solve something, but it's not going to prevent.
My solution right now is to continue the existing U.S. policy of funding Ukraine in its defense against the Russian invasion. It is a working policy. It is not impractical. You are not the person to make those claims against me. And by the way, as per your marriage counseling analysis, no marriage counselor would, after bringing two people in, one of whom had just smacked the other, encourage both of them to get over themselves and ignore it for the, the possibility of future peace. If
that would be more like if a wife smacked the shit out of her children and say, well, it's her children, she could totally smack them. And then the husband smacks the wife and goes, well, no, you can't do that because the wife is sovereign and she can smack her children, but you can't smack the wife.
First of all, no, you can't smack the wife just because she smacked the children. Smacking the children is an autonomous.
Nobody should be smacking anybody, of course.
Yeah, that would be great. Except Ukraine didn't smack anyone.
The Donbass,
the Donbass was invaded by right now. Tell me right now one bad thing they did in the Donbass that wasn't a product of the Russian invasion. This is you being a statist. You are as effective a regurgitator of Russian propaganda as people who get paid for it. And you talk about tech bros being apolitical. Dog, the two biggest tech bros in America are Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, a fucking Republican Party stooge and the origin point of tech bro fascism.
I will defend technology all day, but not the point of this discussion.
Technology is good. The minds of people who create it are fucking broken. You are not capable of understanding that these problems are beyond being fixed with an app.
I am against Elon Musk owning privately a public forum. I'm against Zuck owning publicly a private forum.
Yeah, what systems would you put in place to keep them from doing that?
Oh, that's very simple. And we could have hours of discussion, but the short answer is open source systems, bro. Linux, Wikipedia, WordPress.
Dog, open source technology doesn't stop the centralization of user engagement with specific websites. This is exactly what I mean. The correct answer is legislation and trust busting. There was one answer. You're such a tech bro, dude. Open source?
Trust busting by whom? A centralized government?
Yes, by our government. I said today, what would you do to prevent this stuff? We live in a state, yes.
I do it. I don't have to say what I would do. I have been doing it. I have 10 million users around the world. I just don't talk about it because I think that, honestly, I'd love to have a discussion on substance. But what I'm trying to tell you is, you want to know what I do? I build open source software to disrupt big tech. The same guys that you don't like, I am telling you, the problem is private ownership. Capitalist ownership of public forums. Yes, it's bad. People should be able to have software that they do what they want with, including the media. The media that tells you everything that you're regurgitating and then tells you the opposite is Putin's agenda. If you go to another country,
you keep equating Ukraine and Russia. You make Ukraine sound like the worst of the two. A husband hitting his wife, in my opinion, is probably not as bad as a wife hitting the kids. Kids are kids. I don't know. That's variable.
So, so Ukraine
hasn't hit anyone. They got invaded.
Yes, after that.
Okay. After what? Anyway,
after the anti-Maidan protests.
The citizens rise. So wait, hold on. There's some equivocacy here between the citizens of Ukraine having a protest and Russia invading.
Whoa, actually, wait. I have a question for you. Very important question. In the anti-Maidan protests, whose side would you be on? The protesters who protested against, they were the anti-revolutionary, right? Against the revolution of dignity, or the people cracking down on them with force, the police?
They shouldn't be Wait, the police cracked down on them?
Yes.
After Yanukovych would have announced it. I support the right to freedom of protest. They should be allowed to protest.
The anti-Maidan protesters.
They should be allowed to. They should never win. All manner of violence should be employed if they have even a slight chance of actually taking over the government. But as long as they're just
Just out
expressing...
of curiosity, what makes the anti-Maidan babushkas or whatever way worse than the young ideologically bent neo right-wing nationalists?
Because they were supporting the guy who was trying to turn their country into an authoritarian puppet of Russia.
Okay, I got you. And that's the main factor in your mind for everything.
Yes. When it comes to my support for protests, they tend to be dictated by what the protests are about.
At least there's one in here, and I understood your point of view. It's a bit simplistic, but it's
it's one protest is for good and one protest is for bad. It is simplistic. I agree. The facts at hand are simplistic.
So, like Poroshenko, a future president who was not a stooge of Russia, in your mind was good because he's not a stooge of Russia, the end, period. Correct?
No, you can be
because
bad.
Ukrainians didn't like him either. They thought that he was corrupt also.
You can be bad. I don't know how we keep having these talks on, like, comparative.
No, it's just
you can be bad and not be a stooge of Russia, but he was better than Yanukovych.
The current president is good, correct? He's good in your mind. He's good or bad or what?
For me, whether something is good or bad is really framed in what the options are. So
so the options were he explicitly ran on a platform of implementing the Minsk agreements and peace with Russia.
No, stop, retarded already. You almost had a point. Stop. No, when I say with what the options were, what I mean is, like, I may take issues with a politician, like Zelensky, for example, who's not the best guy in the world, but he's a lot better than Ukraine being controlled by Russia. So I will say Zelensky is good, like, in quotation marks, because it is preferable to Russia. Because that, in reality, that's the only real choice we get. You only get options.
He's a smart, fun guy. He's great. But my point is, he ran on a platform of peace with Russia. Do you support that? This was before 2022 invasion. This was the Servant of the People Party.
Did Russia keep invading during that whole time?
He would have, according to his mandate, the mandate was to make peace with Russia. Explicitly, that was what he ran on.
At what cost?
Well, obviously, there had to be a finite cost.
No, there doesn't have to be a cost. You don't have to lose land.
Everything has a cost.
Sometimes you actually, it's not a zero-sum game. Sometimes you actually do get just a big dub. Russia never abided by the Minsk protocols.
So, like, for example, the right-wing groups that he approached, including the Azov Battalion and Dnipro and others, they were not happy with this because they had been fighting the separatists for this whole time. And by the way, it's not just Russians they were fighting. Separatists did have their own fighters too. And these
who were armed and backed and funded by the Russians, yes.
Sure, but they wanted to secede.
Yeah,
I don't know if you support that or not.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Their whole bit is like, let me go to war with my country so that I can have the glory and honor of joining with Russia. Please,
dude, they don't want to join with Russia. They wanted to be independent,
right? As a tiny sliver of land in between the land-hungry Russia that was arguing they weren't a real country, and Ukraine, the country they just seceded from.
Guess what? That's what Palestinians want too, man. They want their own little state in between Jordan and Israel. And
Jordan isn't fighting over Palestinian land, for one. And for two, yeah, I agree. It's actually pretty unrealistic. This is one of the reasons why I've leaned more towards a single-state solution. Not because it's the most satisfying end, but because I don't think logistically that Palestinians would be able to do anything other than starve out after being cut off from Israel. It sucks, but it's just it's like, you work with the tools you got. But no, I agree on that point. I don't think the Donbass ever had a chance as like an independent.
By the way, I just wanted to say, I wonder what your chat is saying right now about you and your view of that. But
nodding,
look,
good goal, nodding, a Giga Chat, single state supporters, lesser evil.
In my solution, I wanted to move beyond Russia and Ukraine for a second, just because.
Well, we are on 2 hours 15.
Okay.
Our conversational chemistry is just too good. This happens every time we talk. I don't know if I can run to another one. I was meant for this to be an hour. I haven't showered today.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I don't want that bacteria to fester.
Well, hold on. I'm clean. I just need a shower. Look, no, it's not. Look, it's not. See, I'm the one who's stinky, not Putin, I guess. Look, it's just in this instance here, Ukraine.
Guys, am I doing better this time? By the way, just the chat. Am I like at least making sense?
Chappy mean. Chappy mean. Be super mean. There we go.
That
I've
would be
skewed them
mean.
against them. Ha! And prove my point, by the way. Because, much in the case with Russia propagandizing to their population, you can never trust anything a group of people believe if they're being given unreliable information. This is why you could never have a regulatory body that would do anything to stop a country like Russia from doing bad shit. You would need to use military force.
So, okay, let's use military force, and therefore going with what you're saying and staying on Russia and Ukraine, because we do have to close this out. I want to play you one clip for 10 seconds.
Yeah,
this is Kennedy, okay? And I want to ask your opinion, okay? So just to give the context here, the Cuban Missile Crisis was the closest that two nuclear powers ever came to a head. Cuba had been invaded a year earlier with the Bay of Pigs invasion. Cuba asked for the USSR for help. The USSR came and put missiles on Cuba, which is in a way a mirror image of what NATO is trying to do with Ukraine, which is to say defend a smaller country from the aggression of a larger country that just invaded it. So then Kennedy's response was, we are going to blockade Cuba, cut it off from everything up until you remove your missiles. Oh, and by the way, we had put missiles secretly on Turkey, which they declassified 30 years later. So the point is, here's what he said after he averted the conflict. And again, this was masterful dialogue, two statesmen actually listening to each other and having a direct line, something they don't have today. This is what he said, and I'd like to get your reaction to what he said. Here we go.
And me.
In the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures, and we are all mortal. Third, let us re-examine our attitude towards the Cold War, remembering we're not engaged in a debate, seeking to pile up debating points. We are not here distributing blame or pointing the finger of judgment. We must deal with the world as it is, and not as it might have been, had the history of the last 18 years been different. We must therefore persevere in the search for peace, in the hope that constructive changes within the communist bloc might bring within reach solutions which now seem beyond us. We must conduct our affairs in such a way that it becomes in the communist interest to agree on a genuine peace.
And here's the main point. Ready? Here we go.
And above all, while defending our own vital interests, nuclear powers must avert those confrontations which bring an adversary to a choice of either a humiliating retreat or a nuclear war. To adopt that kind of course in the nuclear age would be evidence only of the bankruptcy of our policy or of a collective death wish for the world.
Our policy today is in direct opposition and specifically designed to get Russia to have a humiliating defeat or a nuclear war.
No.
Is it not?
We're actually preventing that. The only way to keep Russia from continuing to invade and posture invasion with its neighbors is to crush them utterly. We need to make it so Putin is incapable of serving as a functional head of state for that country. Unfortunately, JFK here is well-meaning. He's right in the context in which he's speaking, but it's also not relevant to this specific case because here, Russia is actively expanding outward, invading and threatening invasion and so on. Under these circumstances, the only thing we can really do to prevent the threat of nuclear war is to ensure that Russia is no longer interested in threatening it. And
okay, but Kennedy would have said, just to be, I think, not to put words in his mouth, but Kennedy would have said, NATO seems to be expanding, and Russia, the bright red lines of Russia are Ukraine and Georgia. So NATO can take Estonia, Latvia, Finland, Norway, pretty much any countries. But please, let's think twice before trying to welcome Ukraine and Georgia into NATO. And then he would say, let's take Russia's security concerns, even though we may think they're not legitimate.
they're not. No, they're not legitimate. They're a lie. They don't exist.
Right,
They're not real. Let's take
but-
their delusions into account. Continue.
Let's take their delusions and treat them like legitimate security concerns, because that's what people do, because they may have different points of view. And in the end, in the final analysis, we don't want to push them into choosing a humiliating retreat or a nuclear war.
Well, then it's a good thing we rejected Ukraine's bid for joining with NATO.
Yes, it is.
So what's the issue?
So we agree on that. Many people don't.
We never
agree.
did. No one. That's what they did. I don't like. So what's the issue?
The issue is that in 10 to 15 years, NATO has welcomed Ukraine and wants Ukraine to be. Ukraine has already said itself it's a de facto member of NATO, not de jure, but de facto.
Had better make sure they don't consider Ukraine a security threat in 20 years. I recommend they try liberal democracy. It's the best way to keep consistent borders in Europe. Didn't work well.
I agree. I'm a big fan of liberal democracy. So we agree on many things. We just don't agree on the methods, right? And unfortunately, your way, according to Kennedy, is a collective death wish for the world.
Kennedy's statements do not disagree with mine. The situation is disanalogous. Russia is actively expanding outward. There's nothing at all wrong with supporting allies who are being invaded. You say we need to take their security concerns seriously? Well, we didn't invite Ukraine into NATO. All we've done is say they might in the future.
We did.
Are you really going to let Russia decide not only who gets to join our defensive military alliance, but who even gets to be considered for it? What kind of military alliance would cuck itself out by going, oh yeah, here, the enemy, you get to decide which countries are safe from you?
It's not... Okay, I really
And Russia
think
starts saying, actually, we feel threatened by NATO anywhere beyond Germany. And then, oh, actually, because they lie. Putin's government, they lie.
No, they've been very consistent in their bright red lines, and even the people that
they have not
served
been
as the
consistent in
Secretary of
anything.
State said this.
It does
the
not
people
matter. They lie.
Job it was. Look, this is the entire country we're talking about.
No, we're talking about the Kremlin. It's not a democracy. The people who work for Putin
Putin's
and Putin.
sharpest liberal critics agreed with this part, right?
Who?
So what I'm saying is that the people whose job it was to be going to Moscow and getting the ear to the ground of what everyone is saying said that even the liberal critics of Putin, meaning if you assassinate Putin tomorrow and get some other guy, in charge or girl, they're going to do the same thing because...
And perhaps they'll be assassinated as well. This is a non-negotiable issue. You do not allow enemy nations to dictate which countries get to join the defensive alliances that were created to protect them from the enemy nation. That's ridiculous.
So
that's ridiculous. Security of Russia. What about the security of Ukraine? They gave up their nuclear weapons in exchange for a promise of territorial integrity from Russia. And did they get it? No. Russia ignored it. They fucking invaded them back in 2014 and then invaded them again. It's ridiculous. They gave them nukes. I wish they'd kept those nukes. Russia wouldn't have dared.
Okay, so wait. Okay. I need to ask this because this is like such a clusterfuck. It's okay to curse, I think, on your stream. Okay. So I try to understand something. Given your own rules, I am super interested to hear this. So given your rules, okay, so the leftists need to win and topple the governments, and the fascists need to lose, and we can use violence.
If it can be done, it's not always possible to do these things. They're just desirable goals.
So I just want to understand how it applies in certain situations, which I think is like mind-bending. Okay, so Laos, okay? So Laos was a country, so we had something called the domino theory, right? Which is to say that communism, which is the thing that you say you are and you like, shouldn't spread, okay? Because it was like Putin's denazification. So we go 3,000 miles around the world. We don't tell our public. And let me just finish this. This is important. Kennedy, the guy you just heard, was assassinated. The very thing that you're saying, if we do... Hold on, let me just finish. This is very important. If we do that, let's say with Putin and the next person comes. The next guy was Lyndon Johnson. That guy is responsible for bombing a country, Laos, more than Dresden, more than all World War II combined. The United States bombed that one country, dropped more bombs on it. Now, that country presented no threat to the United States, and communism was supposed to be the thing that we're stopping. So you're clearly against that, correct?
Against the bombing of Laos, yes, but not because it was about communism. It was just a humanitarian disaster to begin with, along with the Vietnam War.
Wait, you're whitewashing? What? We killed civilians, we killed babies
What?
because of communism. We wanted to stop communism, right? In a country.
Okay.
Because to send a message, we literally bombed Laos to send a message to Vietnam and others that we will not allow, like literally, if you go and look on Wikipedia, this was a stated reason, okay? And this was kept from the US public. My point is this, you assassinate a guy like Kennedy. I'm not saying that was good or bad or who did it, I don't know. But the next guy is even more brutal, okay? And he goes, and so in my question to you is, so do you support us like the domino theory, like fighting against the spread of communism, or was that not real communism? Like what?
Why are you asking? What the fuck? We're already over time. What are these questions? Do I support U.S. intervention in Vietnam? Are you seriously asking me this? Why?
Laos.
Laos. Why? Who would support Vietnam but not Laos, and vice versa? I guess some people would support Vietnam but not Laos. No, I don't support any of this. Why? Why would I? What have I said to indicate I would support any of this?
You support leftists and communists who were coming to power to overthrow a kleptocrat, which was just like Yanukovych in Laos, right? So you should support them, right?
What?
And you do.
No, what? I don't. I genuinely have no clue what you're
You
getting at
support
here.
the People's Revolution in Laos.
I don't know enough about it. It's dead
Or in
and
Vietnam,
gone.
or anywhere in South Asia. Do you know anything about any communist revolution? If you're so pro these things, shouldn't you know about them or
Those weren't
like support
communist
them or not?
revolutions. They were, at their best, social democratic reforms through revolutionary means and anti-colonial reforms. I mean, I know enough about Vietnam.
Okay, do you support like revolutionary Catalonia?
Yeah, Catalonia is pretty based.
Okay, cool. Do you support Cuba? Those are like basic, like safe bets to support, right?
Yeah, I think Cuba's better than whatever Cuba would have besides itself.
So like
It's an
the U.S.
authoritarian government,
hegemony in
but
Cuba, like they did pretty well under U.S. Like you know, the Hemingway vacationed there.
with
They,
Batista? No. We're backing off this one. They most certainly
I'm
did
just
not.
asking. So you supported the revolution in Cuba? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And what about Che Guevara and his revolutions? Do you
Yeah,
support,
he
like-
was. Yes, he was a hero. He spread revolutionary tactics and sentiment all around the world.
Okay. Do you support, just to throw it out there, Al Qassam and the Black Hand to support the revolution in Palestine, right, against the Jews?
No, I don't think we need to be doing anything that's against, quote, the Jews. No.
Well, I mean, they were coming in droves, right? I am a Jew. I'm saying they're coming to escape Hitler's Holocaust, but they're violating the quotas of the British mandate, which was, by the way, a one-state solution attempt, right? It failed. The mandate was to create a one state for the Jews and Arabs to live peacefully. That was the Balfour Declaration. It failed, right? So what? That's for another time. But I wonder what makes you think it will succeed this time. If the British tried for years under Herbert, and they failed.
If you're
Like,
talking
why-
if you're talking about the difficulties in understanding how things pan out after a leader is assassinated or whatever, I agree it's a
Yeah.
serious issue and it's worth consideration. I don't see what the relevance is though when we're talking about Ukraine, which is a sovereign nation with a fully functional government fighting against Russia, a sovereign nation with a fully functional government. There's really only two outcomes to the Russian-Ukraine conflict. It's either Russia wins or loses. It's morally superior that they lose. So that's what I support. Generally
understand you
speaking, I will
support that.
support, like, my politics are heavily informed by what I believe will lead to a better long-term outcome. And obviously, anything that disempowers fascists will have a better long-term outcome. You would have to dig pretty deep into the well to find exceptions to that. Fascists are pretty bad.
I like that you want good to win and the dark side to lose. Okay, I really like that.
Yes, it
And-
is true. I believe in ethics as a concept. For this, I am like the Marvel fans. It is like the fascists and the liberals are like the Sith and the Jedi, and I'm just swinging a lightsaber around.
Right. Except that on the other side, they also think that it's a battle of good versus evil.
But from my perspective, it is the Jedi who are evil. I know. I saw episode 3.
Yeah. So So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is other people like libertarians, which you think I'm a statist. Okay. I don't think anything I've said here. You have literally said you want the state to battle corporations with antitrust. You have said that you want, Ukraine, the state. to remain as it is forever and not have the territorial integrity ever violated and so on. And you don't
Well,
care.
it's really more about the people that I care about. You know, having
Oh
territorial...
yeah, the people, except that you said you don't care about the referenda and you didn't even
What?
know about many of them,
When
right?
did I... Wait, when did I say I
You
don't
said,
care about
I
the...
don't care. Your words were, well, I don't care what they...
Wait, the people voted to be independent in the referendum. It supports my position.
Which people?
The
They voted to
Ukrainian
be
people.
independent of Ukraine in their referendum.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Referendum, Ukraine, independence. What percentage of Ukrainians was it? The 1991? 92.3% of voters approved the Declaration of Independence. That
Now
one?
look in Crimea, how many voters? 54%.
Yes. In
Yeah,
one
very strong
area of the
majority there.
country, it was a narrow vote. I agree. Crimea has a
Okay,
lot
so
more...
they could have flipped the other way after 30 years. That's fine.
Sure.
See, in my version,
however,
the
wait. That's not how the rules work, okay?
How does
First
it work
of all,
exactly?
54% is a majority, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
Second
back
of all,
then,
it was
sure.
a vote for the country. You can't just let an autonomous province be independent. And it's not like Russia just instantly assumes control of it if you assume...
Forget Russia. Should they be independent without Russia? Should they be their own country?
Crimea
right?
on its own? What? And
Like
subsist
Kosovo.
entirely off of their fucking goats? Do you know how poor Crimea is?
Bro, do you know how poor the Palestinian state is?
I just told... Wait, stop! We're looping! I already talked about how I don't think Palestine could exist as an independent state.
Okay, I happen to agree with you.
Then
Jordan
why did you just say that? If we agree, if I said
You're
this
right.
earlier...
Because most leftists don't take that position. Okay.
I argue with lefties more than any other...
Many of your audience take that position, so at least it's good for them to hear this.
My audience agrees with me on most of the stuff that I say.
Well, that's convenient.
Oh,
anyway,
it is, yeah.
I hope that people think for themselves. I honestly don't agree with anybody, including Noam Chomsky, on everything. But okay. In conclusion, okay, I'm just trying to say there are ways to use increasingly nonviolent systems like insurance companies and banks and international...
Okay, this is perfect. I'm going to engage with this directly, okay? Insurance companies.
Sure.
Tell me how that prevents violence.
Absolutely. Okay. So someone has to perpetrate the violence, first of all. Okay. Let's not jump directly to, oh, what if Superman in a super country with one guy, Putin, does everything and he doesn't care about anyone and listen to anyone and he has the nukes. Can we just take a few steps before that? Okay. So individuals on an individual level may engage in violence, like stealing your TV. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have that TV insured. Okay. Like you have your car insured. So your car is stolen. So what happens next is that your insurance company, first of all, makes you whole and reimburses you so you can go and get a new car and go to work. Okay, so that's step one. Okay. Step two is that we try to make it really hard to get into those cars. And then we try to investigate what happens. And now the perpetrator who perpetrated this crime is typically tied into society. They have a bank account, they have money, they're somehow paying for food. So it's not like we have to rape them in prison as the only way to prevent car theft.
Okay? Well, hold on. We're not... Yeah. We haven't quite escaped from the rape in prison yet, have we?
Okay.
So
go ahead.
How does this prevent violence?
It prevents violence, and by the way, people are more peaceful today than they ever were throughout history. If you read Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker, we prevent it by essentially having everyone be richer so they don't have to steal, first of all, have enough food, have Maslow's needs met. You'll find most people like that. Secondly, we have consumerism and the internet and porn. So people stay at home and jerk off.
Wait. You said insurance companies, not... Okay, I know that people are more peaceful than before. Tell me specifically how insurance companies prevent violence. Let's say one guy like assaults another person. Like what non-violent system could you use?
Assaults happen every day. In New York City, there's too many prisons, so it's a revolving door. So okay, in your system, right? People let go because there's not enough
No, just tell me. You said violence could be prevented, so I took this to assume.
I'm not saying it will be reduced to zero, just to be clear, right? Don't argue against a straw man. I'm saying simply that increasingly, as we use interconnected systems,
I am talking about a
garnishing
specific
wages. Right.
Okay.
So a court or an arbitrator decides between two people. One says, I have been assaulted. The other person says, I have not assaulted you. So then the court, and we're talking about, I'm a tech bro, right? So it would decrypt the video evidence because there would be cameras, encrypted cameras that you could not decrypt without a due process.
Let's say it was proven. Person A assaulted person B with video evidence.
Okay, so the video evidence was subpoenaed in court. The keys were produced. They decrypted the video. They realized that, in fact, one version was more correct than the other. Okay, so at that point, the person who perpetrated the assault, let's say there's degrees of assault. There's first degree, second degree, etc. They would suffer a monetary penalty, first of all. That monetary penalty could be a percentage of their entire wealth. So they can't do it many times. They're going to become extremely poor. That's one example. Now, if the assault is so severe that a person has been permanently injured, disfigured, they would have to pay reparations to this person, first of all. They might have to pay their family or punitive damages. But what I'm saying is, an eye for an eye, the whole world goes blind. There are other things you can do in 99% of cases.
Okay.
There are some cases, I'll grant you, that you must do violence to the person who did the violence.
Yeah,
I'll
so
agree with you.
what happens then if the guy is ordered by the court to pay money and does not do it? He's just like, no, fuck you, and he doesn't do it.
Great, you garnish his wages from his bank.
With the power of the state.
It doesn't have to be a state. In your mind, everything has to be centralized. You're state.
Wait, you're giving private corporations the right to independently decide. Who's the courts then if it's not the state? Okay, never mind. I don't even want to get into the NCAP shit.
But we already live in that world. The insurance companies are independent. They're not. There's no monopoly on force with insurance companies.
The insurance companies. Wait, the insurance companies can't garnish wages from your bank account without.
The banks do. No, actually, that's not true.
Wait. They absolutely need approval from the state, or at the very least, if they act inappropriately, you can go to the state with a claim for it, because otherwise they're stealing.
Okay, so just to be clear, okay, there is a body of law like the New York Convention.
No, wait, stop. Okay, I take the L on that. Okay, I don't care. We're fucking another of the infinite fractal. Okay, if a guy does not pay the wages the court orders him to,
right?
Let's say he's already withdrawn the money, so it can't be directly withdrawn from his account. He has it on his person. There is no way out of this without eventually one day you have to arrest or kill the guy.
Yes, there is.
That's always the end game.
First of all, just to be clear, you're painting yourself in such a tiny exception corner. The guy has to withdraw all cash or Bitcoin, keep it on himself, never participate in society,
okay,
and then he could.
So hold on. Okay, wait, fuck. So never mind. It's garnished directly from his bank account, and then he shows up at the local bank with a gun, saying that money was his because he doesn't want to pay it.
How did he get the gun?
Aren't you a libertarian? I assume he was given it at birth.
Okay, he 3D printed it. Yes, I am a libertarian. I don't think you're going to be able to stop the 3D files that are going to be downloaded on 3D printers. Yes.
So he shows up with a gun. He had his money stolen from him.
Sure. So listen, I just want to be clear.
This was a mistake. The point that I'm trying to get at is at the end of the day, all political power stems from violence. There is no other way to do power. Everything at the end of the day is death or blood or possession. That's it. That's it. It doesn't matter. Stop.
The fascist of Robert Heinlein.
Stop. The libertarians as well. Even if you get into an ANCAP system, this is unavoidable. No matter what, you always have to either comply with a concession or you're like fucking you're taken out. That's it. That's all there is.
Mr. Radchek, the Radchek, the guy without an arm in the movie Starship Troopers, is the fascist of Robert Heinlein's
What the
novel.
Fuck are you? I stopped talking for 2 seconds and you assault me with another. You'll be getting a fucking settlement. Jesus. I don't know what you're talking about, okay? What I do understand is that political power is ultimately a feature of violence applied to people.
Fascist in the movie.
Oh my God.
Says what you said. It's ironic. It literally says violence is the root of all authority and like.
Yes, it is correct. That is correct. Yes. So anyway.
Yes, you agree with him on that. With your mortal enemy, the fascist. You agree with him on many things.
Yes, there's a movie character whose politics I don't agree with, but he said a thing that I agreed with. Yes, he also probably drank water. Did Hitler drink water? Was he a vegetarian? Please stop. Please stop. I don't know why I keep going in this. There's no way through this, okay? You are ideologically bolted, stapled, and hot glue gunned to whatever will allow Russia to get away with its shit. It is your ultimate prevailing ideology.
No, they're imperialist garbage. But what
No,
I'm trying to
you
tell
say that. They all say that. But coincidentally, every position you have, which are not only mutually contradictory, but also completely impossible to apply, just seem to line up in ways that make it, you know, that much easier to overlook the severity of what Russia has done. Everything is everyone else's fault. Oh, Russia smacked their wife, you know? Oh, well, that's kind of like how Ukraine smacked their children. Ukraine, how did Ukraine fucking smack their children? By not doing democracy in a part of the country that was invaded by Russia.
Ukraine are great. Russia is the most evil empire in the world.
What did Ukraine do wrong?
Ukraine, the country, did not, the people didn't do anything wrong. However, instead of voting for the next president like we do in democratic countries, they were encouraged by the U.S.
Yanukovych fled.
That was before Yanukovych. That was 2013. John McCain encouraged.
They were encouraged to protest. Yes, protesting.
Not just, yes, but those protests led to a toppling of their elected president.
No, it led to the president fleeing. It did not lead to an overthrow of the government. Everything was carried on in a normal order after that.
If Biden was not sworn in and he was, and you know, whatever, let's say that it wasn't January 6th, it was January 25th, and Biden fled, according to you, or some people who didn't like Biden, that's a good outcome and it's fine because you don't like the guy.
If Biden was a fascist, then yes, I would consider that a good outcome because as we have established, I hold the Marvel position of good things are good and bad things are bad.
Well, I don't think you have any lasting principles. You decide what's good and bad based on...
You can't even fathom my principles because they can't be put on a blockchain. I have no idea what decision-making drives your day-to-day movements, but it's certainly not one I can perceive. I have been incredibly consistent and incredibly patient this entire conversation, and I'm talking with someone who is legitimately perplexed by the concept of ethics. Not even ethical theory, just ethics.
I am simply saying it's a category error to apply ethics to what countries do. Countries
all right, that's it. No, I can't. No, you win. I agree. Also, we live on a flat Earth.
Okay, whatever, man. Anyway, thank you. I think this was illuminating. I understood more about your views. You think bad should be defeated by good, and good is what you say it is, and the other guys are wrong.
Yes, that is literally the position of everybody who ever has studied ethics. Yes, all ethical positions are derived from a person's first principles.
But you know what? I feel like the guy on TikTok who goes, yes, you're right. But like literally he asks people like facts, which simple facts, and they're like, yes, you're right.
Man, you really can't blame me for this conversation when we're having a hang-up right now on whether or not good things are good and bad things are bad.
No, everyone agrees with that. That's the point. It's a freaking tautology.
You disagree with the tautology. You just said ethics shouldn't even apply to nation-state decision-making.
I'm saying there are far more important considerations when creating systems that prevent bad things from happening than the blame game. Oh, he started it. Okay, well, just kill him then, and everything will be good again.
What if we put the Balkans on a blockchain so it was impossible to alter their borders after the Yugoslav? Okay.
Okay. Your chat is great, guys. All right, listen, I love it.
No, stop. You please. The ethics are important. We live only in the time we're in now. No matter what, countries will break rules.
Sam Harris versus Noam Chomsky debate, and you favor Harris completely, right? Basically.
No, he's retarded.
What? But he literally argues what you argue.
What is he arguing?
That one country is good, the United States, in the case of many of these conflicts, and that if the situation was reversed, the other country would just like destroy completely.
I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that right now, Russia is invading Ukraine.
Yes, I got it. Go read either Sam Harris or Kasparov. You're literally a carbon copy of what they're saying.
For believing that the timeline that I'm in is real?
No, for saying that morality is basically the fundamental thing, that Noam Chomsky ignores morality. He only cares about body count, according to Sam Harris. Okay. And Sam Harris literally makes a far more coherent critique than you do. So you should read him so you can improve your critique. But what I'm basically saying is he's saying your argument, he's saying morality is basically about good and bad and intentions and the role of intentions. And you know what?
I
Those
haven't
guys
said
have bad
intentions. I've said outcomes. I'm not a fucking virtue ethicist.
Wait, so you don't care about Russia's intentions?
No, I care about their behavior.
Okay, so you don't ascribe to them intentions.
No,
like
they have
genociding all
intentions, but
Ukrainians.
the ethics are derived of their consequences. I'm a
So you don't think
consequentialist.
Russia is going to invade Europe, for example? Because again, by your logic, NATO's not going to invade Russia. Russia's not going to invade Europe. Don't worry about it.
They're currently invading Europe.
I'm saying they're not going to go beyond Ukraine.
Oh, they're not going to go beyond Ukraine, the one of the largest countries in the world. Oh no, their borders will just smash up against Poland's, and that's the fucking recipe for future stability. Right now, listen, okay.
Are you being serious?
Hey,
or not? I don't even know anymore.
Do you remember the Holocaust and how it was bad? Okay? Do you remember? Are we remembering? The expansionist ideology that Hitler used to justify his invasion of neighboring countries and then Holocaust them was used by Putin when he invaded Ukraine. Blood and soil, reuniting the ethnic constituency, Lebensraum, more space. As long as Russia, the nation, is being controlled by people with that line of thinking, yes, they are a threat to everyone.
And how do you propose that Russia not be controlled by those type of people?
More HIMARS to Ukraine until eventually Putin commits suicide by throwing himself out of the rooftops. He likes throwing journalists out of so much.
And then the next guy is just going to be a liberal, right?
No, the next guy is going to know his place, though.
I see. And what's your plan B in case that fails?
In case that fails.
A million dead Ukrainians?
Hey, listen. A million dead Ukrainians, first of all, we're doing better than that. Second of all, a million dead Ukrainians. Okay, don't you fucking jerk off over my stream, all right? We're already 1 hour 45 over. I know you like to think about stuff like that.
A million dead Afghans.
Thanks to America, there aren't going to be a million dead Ukrainians.
I hope so, because glory to Afghanistan in the 80s, there were 2 million dead Afghans for the same fucking reason, okay? Russia, the evil empire.
I know, Russia's pretty bad. Well, thankfully, the Mujahideen did not have the armaments that we are giving Ukraine right now. They are not in the same position to win that we are.
Well, here's where we agree, and let's end on this. I hope that the war ends soon. I hope that liberals somehow drive the authoritarians out of every government.
Somehow.
Okay.
Somehow. Yeah, okay.
No, I know how, but that's for another time. And meanwhile, I will continue to build nonviolent systems for we the people to inform each other on the media by the people, not by the capitalist owners of the country, but the actual people. So I think that it's important for the people to have their own systems of open source and not owned by Elon Musk or Zuck or Putin or whatever. Yeah, I am a libertarian, and I do think we have the same outcomes in mind. I just think that you have essentially the incoherent philosophy of I'm right, you're wrong, I like good and I hate bad, and you don't and I do, and yeah. So I gave you 3 hours to explain it to me, and all I got in the end is you literally double down on that and you say that's who I am.
Yeah,
leftists are idiots.
Yes, I'm not doubling down. It's just the bedrock upon which you build literally all normative positions. But yeah, I'm doubling down on my first principles, that it is indeed true that it's good when good things happen and bad things don't.
So your principles are you are right and others are idiots.
Yeah, and oh man, of all my principles, that one gets the most massaging. Oh, that one. I'm more confident in that one than I am of any other. I'm not entirely sure if I'm being controlled by a devil or not, like in the Descartes thing, but this I'm sure of.
Okay, awesome, man. So that's awesome, and I will just end by saying I, on the other hand, like to battle test my ideas, and I'm open to changing my mind if other people make an actual argument besides, I am me and I'm right, and therefore everyone else, including leftists, are idiots. So yeah, I think we are slightly different on our openness to changing our mind and openness to reason. We might
well be. I love you. I have to go shower.
All right, man. Enjoy your shower. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
YouTube TOS will not allow me to say the stuff I want to do to my body right now. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, this is The Rock. Oh. Ah. Fuck. God, drop my controller. Oh god. Ah. Jesus Christ. This is the fucking the newest wave of Kremlin anti-Western disinfo, which is where they compel you to kill yourself.